Hi, I'm finishing editing up this episode and realizing I go real spicy in this opening, which is like a 30 minute something screed, whatever. And I think I'm going to leave it in because it's honest and it's where I'm at currently. And I think that that's part of the experience here is honestly expressing my struggles. This episode freaked me out to do, and I think that it doesn't get much better. I'm almost more freaked out now that I've made that in that beginning, because I think we're all supposed to have clean, smart person sound bites and be all composed about everything, and I'm not that at all in this opening. So if you don't want to listen to me, whatever, go off about stuff and basically about being problematic and struggles around that and fears around that and doing my best with that, whatever, and Kanye West and life and things, then feel free to skip up to about 30 or so minutes and, just skip into the part with Mitchell Davis. But if you want to, just be forewarned, I'm a maniac. And hey, while you're here, check out patreon.com/mygoodbadbrain and donate before you decide you don't like this anymore. I did this I was like worried about this episode, and so I was like, let's just jump to it. Let's do the one where we just go galaxy brain, crazy existential stuff, and it happened to end with a whole thing about how we love Kanye West just like a week before he decided to take the hardest heel turn in the history of my favorite artists. So please enjoy my, sometimes problematic good bad brain. I hope. Well, whatever. Just thought I'd put it up in the 4th episode, so if people decide they hate this and hate me, they could do it now. I don't think anyone's going to react. I don't know. This is just my anxiety talking. Fuck. Get ready for more of this for about a half hour or more. Let's run the theme song. Bye. Welcome to my good bad brain. I'm a normal person, so I'm insane. I've got depression and ADHD, but I'm doing better since I medicated me. I'm still not always sure whether I exist or what being a person even really is, but I figured out a long time ago that being alive is beautiful. I'm having a lot of difficulty starting this one again. Maybe that's going to end up being a theme, I suppose. I'll say this. I'm a little scared of this episode because I recorded a lot of these episodes, all of them really, before publishing them. And I don't want to just throw things out or change things or re-record things, and I think everything's valid. I'll say right off the bat, the reason this one freaks me out primarily has to do with Kanye West. Because Mitchell and I love Kanye West, and we have long been, I'm not even going to say apologists, I will say flat out lovers of Kanye West through his struggles and his egomania and whatnot and this and that. And I'm going to get into that a little bit in this little preamble. And that stuff doesn't hit till the outro, till the ending of this podcast, but it's a strong note to go out on because it was prior to Kanye's recent return to the public arena with his rather incendiary, I will say, heel turn with his MAGA hats and whatnot and these and that and things. And I think that combined with... I'll say do a couple things. One, I will say that combined with a fear about this episode in general that like we just get too philosophical or something like that. We do talk about specific mental health stuff as we always do, but that became an anxiety for me about this podcast in general about like, are we keeping this concrete, like, about mental health enough? Is there too much existential armchair philosophizing, being a person stuff in here? And I'm not too worried about that. If people don't dig that, that's kind of okay. Because that's what I want to do. That's what helps me. And all I think we can truly do as creatives is make the thing that you want in the world. The thing that you can do the best is going to be that. So that's just that's my bag. That's what I'm going to do. Mitchell and I are cut from the same cloth, and we really go off a little bit. I think there's only one other episode that I'm as concerned about, and the ones I've always recorded already, and that's with Elliot Morgan because we got a little too stoned on that episode, and I don't do that in most podcasts. And whatever, we'll get to that one when it comes. I don't even know if it's listenable yet, but let's come back around to me, Mitchell Davis, and Kanye West, and the nature of being problematic. Because the other, factor of this was I had a wonderful, very kind listener write me a letter. I've actually gotten really amazing messages from people on this. Some of them are from friends I actually know, some of them from actually know, personally already in my life and in physical IRL, some from people on the internet, some from complete strangers. And the messages have been really wonderful. Like, it's very exciting to think you had some impulse and some intention to create a sense of connection and possibility and community, maybe even a less of aloneness, something that would have helped you, and finding that that's happening, that some people are finding resonant voices and spirits that make them feel less alone. And truly, as my friend Elliot Morgan has said, he said, God, it was really beautiful. He said, like, he thinks perhaps all we are here to do is walk each other home. And I love that. I think that's so beautiful. This idea that we talk about empathy and sympathy, right? That all we're really meant to do is be here with each other and for each other. And so the fact that this pod, based on some messages I've gotten, these conversations have already created a little bit more of that in the universe makes me very happy. Big deep breath in a swig of LaCroix. The scary part about entering an arena that is so sensitive, that is so personal to people's experiences, is the concern that you would overstep bounds, that you would be harmful when you're trying to be helpful, that you would be a bad thing when you're trying to be a good thing. You know what I mean? Like, you're trying to start a cooking fire or a little bonfire to be warmed by, and you end up burning down the village or just burning somebody terribly. That gets into a whole moral thing. What if you do successfully warm everybody in town and cook a meal for everybody in town, but one person gets burned beyond repair? You know what I mean? Like, was that good? Should you have not done it all in the first place? Whatever. That's morality and not for me to figure out. I don't think the answer to morality is a mathematical equation. Do you know what I mean? Like, one person for 10,000 people or whatever. I don't think it works like that. But I'm getting abstract a little bit too early, too fast. Anyway, the weird theme that made me choose to do this one next, to just go right into it, had to do with this idea of being problematic. So the combination of Kanye taking his heel turn, deciding to say outrageous stuff that really hurt a lot of people, that really has disregarded the experience of Black Americans and just so many people who have been afflicted and marginalized, and him kind of, God damn it, that is a thing that disgusts me in general, this pick yourself up by the bootstraps kind of thing. Ironically, his poopity scoopity song, to me, like, if he hadn't had this genuine heel turn, like, immediately I would have been like, this is hilarious satire, this is brilliant, this beautiful production around a beautiful spiritual song saying, like, pick yourself up by the feet, which is the common refrain of conservative ideology. Pick yourself up by the bootstraps, and this glorious sort of attitude around it in the production, in the background of this poopity scoopity song, suggesting like, oh yeah, it does sound good. Just pick yourself up by the feet. Pick yourself up by the feet, or whatever, And then he just goes, oh my God, here he goes. He's going to go on top of this. This is going to be so MAGA, This is going to be so like conservative. Pick yourself by the feet. Wow. And I might actually buy it because that sounds so good. And then he just goes, poop diddy scoop diddy. Scoop. Scoopity poop, scoopity poop, And you're like, wow, that's some fucking satire right there. That is so smart. They get this whole background, this whole fascist, like, beautiful spiritual production. And then on top of it, what are they saying? Nothing. They're saying shit. They're saying, scoop up this fucking poop. Scoop up this shit. And you're like, man, if he wasn't going so ham on the other stuff, and he was just still the Kanye we've known, you'd be like, damn Kanye. That is very subtle and very clever. You know what I mean? And that's the artist I've come to know in Kanye. That Kanye as an artist is someone who I've always felt is a true artist, which has led me down this whole path now of examining, why do I expect my artists to be something that they're not? Meaning what they are is this electrical, this lightning rod for society, right? These people who receive experiences and then spew them out. And all of his struggles and vulgarity and quote unquote egomania, to me, him going crazy, him saying, I'm Yeezus, and everyone being like, oh, what an egomaniac, I fucking hate that guy. Why isn't he humble? He thinks he's better than us because he's wealthy. in the circumstances he's under, like when he says, I am a god, any other time in human history, if someone were treated the way he was, if an Aztec individual was treated the way he is, he would be a god. They would consider that a god. And there's something to me that is like a sane person's response to the things he has thrown at him, the power and attention and money and whatever, just for being himself. You should go crazy. The sane response is to turn into a maniac who can't stop being like, I'm a god, and doesn't know how to handle it because he's just a person, It's almost like insane. It's way weirder when these people we treat like demigods, these celebrities, are just so humble. Like there has to be something in that you go, what? Wait a minute. How are you? You're lying on some level because you're being treated differently. Everyone's treating you like something better than everyone. And I don't know, it just gets into this thing. I've just always felt his honest, raw, ragged struggle with humanity, malehood, just being in this realm as a creative, listening to it, his whole evolution through every album has just been so real. And I've loved it. Mitchell and I get into it a little bit later about some of the stuff. And then this all happens, and I have to face this thing where I'm like, I guess, why do I expect, I started thinking to myself after being like, oh, Kanye's canceled, R.I.P. Saint West, And it took me a few days of being like, well, hold on. Why do I expect my ragged, wild artists, these people who have always fed back to me stuff that's vulgar and crazy and whatever, but true in some sense, or trying something out, responding to their environment, being like this lightning rod of humanity, why do I expect them to somehow then be thoughtful, careful political leaders who have perfect vision of the universe, or who go along? He's always been this this antisocial individual against the grain. And what's interesting is, I guess, facing my liberal and leftist sort of ideals and hegemony in my culture, in my experience, in my community, realizing that, I've always been the supporter of the voice that stands up. When Kanye got up at award shows in the past, and everyone would go, I was amazed to see how many of my friends who I would consider liberal, leftist people who would say, never let someone silence your voice, never tell somebody to sit down. Kanye sees injustice in the way that he feels him and other black recording artists are used by these shows to sell advertisements, to sit them in the front row and whatnot, and then, not give them the respect of the awards that they are acting like mean something. They give those to their white artists and the people that like fit their whatever, while you know what I mean, like profiting off these people while not honoring them and acting like what they do isn't as legit as what like Beck or Taylor Swift does. I was amazed to see how many like very liberal leaning friends I grew up with and people who were so quick to be like, wow, what an asshole, what an egomaniac, sit down. If you saw that in a room, if you saw somebody get up to speak about something they were passionate about, and you know what I mean? The instinct to say, sit down, shut up, is so gross. That's so fascist. You know what I mean? And so I guess I was facing it again. I was thinking, look, here I'm doing it. I'm saying, he's got to be a political leader. And I think everybody, a lot of response is correct. A lot of response is, he doesn't really take into account what that is the reality of our culture now, that he carries this social cachet, that a lot of people will listen to him, that the effect and harm of his words matters. And I end up falling on that side of the fence more than not. But I can't help but look at this thing of this thought about being problematic and how do I reconcile when I love something problematic or don't, or find some intellectual moral problem with something, and then notice I don't feel it in my guts. I feel that way a little bit about eating meat. I've been vegetarian for periods of time. I've also been a butcher, and I don't think I can really find a true moral defense of eating meat. There's something about just being animals and our animal body, and, bacteria eat bacteria and other animals eat other animals without any problem. And, we're all part of the cycle. Something's going to eat me one day, whether it's bacteria or bugs or worms or maybe I'll get eaten by a wolf. I don't know, and that's just part of the circle of life. But in terms of morality involving sentience and compassion and things like that I believe in, I don't know if there's really a defense, you know? I kind of come down being like, nah, it's just bad. But in my body, I don't feel that way. You know? In my body, it just doesn't bother me. And I'm like, is this what being a bad person is? When I look at people who are what I perceive to be as evil, you know, like racist, sexist, hateful, you know, bigots, whatever, is that what being a bad person feels like? It just doesn't bother them? It just doesn't feel bad to them. It actually feels like nothing? I don't know. This is being a person. This is the whole strange thing. All I know is I can do my best. And if people do tell me that I'm hurting them, damn, I'm going to stop and I'm going to think about it. Okay, so that's a really smooth segue into a letter I'd like to share. I got a note from somebody. I'm not going to say their name because I actually forgot to ask permission to say their name or not, and I don't want to do that, but we are supposed to have a longer discussion once we're both through a couple of busy weeks, and hopefully we'll have some follow-up on this. But I want to especially bring it up because I do the thing that they said again in this episode, and I can't guarantee if I do it or not in future ones because I've already recorded them and haven't listened through all of them yet. But I know at one point I've used the term, sorry, hold on, there's a pause here. I do know I use the term, and I know I use it colloquially all the time in my life. I use this word all the time. Tribe and tribal. I use it, I reference tribal and tribe. And me and this person have yet to have a one-on-one talk, and I've asked to, and they've agreed, and they're, you know, being so nice to do this with me because I want to have a deeper understanding of what they said. But here, I'll just read the note I received and the whole thing. So I'm not going to just, whatever. Here's what they said. I am loving your podcast. Thank you for... You have brought amazing insight and value to discussion and dialogue of mental health. I do have one criticism for you. I am having some troubles with your use of tribe and tribal. Now, I recognize your intent with the words in displaying the in and out group mentality within our society of history and modern climate. As an indigenous person, I find your use to be a little light given I find your use to be a little light given the value used within context of modern Native America. Recognizing one's tribe goes beyond simply seeing and validating that person/group. It's taking on the challenges, issues, roadblocks, successes, and representation of that group, even when they or you are not surrounded by them, physically, spiritually, or otherwise. I only point this out given you are a person whose aspects of identity afford you agency and privilege to set and change the narrative surrounding such terms and the usage in which they play a role. I recognize your intent. I just hope this can help you recognize your impact. Still love the podcast and will continue to listen. I didn't need to say the last part. That was a nice thing. I just was in a rolling along. I'm not trying. Okay. So I thought about this. I thought, damn, this is a very thoughtful, kind thing. And I do think words matter. You know, it's a funny thing, this paradox, right? Is I'm like, I have two feelings about words that seem to be in conflict with each other, where on the one hand, I hate when grammar Nazis or whatever, you know, people try to, the thing I say with Lily, right? Well and good. Why are you trying to use language as a way to stop us from communicating? Why are you using a dumb little fucking rule that was written in a book and agreed on by some people to try to shut down what I'm saying or try to make me feel stupid or not listen to me when, you know, language changes. The word ask, right? Everybody likes to say ax. Let me ask you a question that sounds, you know, like uneducated or something like that. Well, ask was pronounced ax back in like the Middle Ages or whatever, and it became ask, and now it's ask again, and then, you know, it might be ax, it's turning into ax again. Language is alive and moving, and it's like a way of, you know, we vibrate oxygen molecules between each other or whatever, air molecules, and you understand what I've said, and that's language, right? So people, on the one hand, I'm like, hey, let's not use words to stop understanding each other. Let's not look for little red flags to say, oh, what you said that, so you're this. At the same time, I love poetry. I love words, you know? I think words are probably my favorite thing in the world. The beauty and power. When you can look at a poem and you can look at little scratchings on a page and they blossom huge thoughts and feelings and experiences inside of your heart and body. Goddamn, if that isn't magic, I don't know what is, you know? That's a magical spell. And so I think words have a lot of power. And when certain words become contextualized in certain ways, you know, slurs and hate speech and stuff, I think it's fucking important to not do that to people. I believe, you know, I know we everyone likes to make jokes about trigger warnings and things like that, but I think those are valuable. If there's a little tiny thing that I can do, like not say this or say this instead of this, and it, you know, to not hurt somebody, then fuck, let's not do that. Let's, like this person says, everybody, you know, not just me making this podcast, right? Everybody who has some aspect of privilege, which we all have some aspect of privilege, you know, everyone has something at the very least. It doesn't matter. Just being alive in a person, this thing afford you agency and privilege to set and change the narrative surrounding such terms. That's beautiful. That is so true. We should have intention with the things that we say and do. So I just want to say initially, I apologize if I offend, which, you know, again, this is my whole thing, right? I'm problematic. I feel problematic just being a white male who is straight, you know, who grew up in America, basically Christian and cis het, you know what I mean? Like I had it all laid out for me, and I still can't fucking hack it. You know, I still got this terrible fucking brain and barely know how to exist. And I've always really, I don't know. I've always been really attracted to queer culture and stuff like that because my sexuality is confusing to me and my gender identity is confusing to me. I am afforded the privilege and luxury of being confused in the framework of something that's very easily accepted at the table, you know, that has a position of power for hundreds of thousands of years or whatever. And I'm not ignorant of that at all. So, you know, I want to do my best to walk through the world and be the change I want to see in it, and empower the unempowered, and just not fuck with people. You know what I mean? Not hurt people. But I'm going to fuck up, you know, and things change and move around and whatever. And so I'm going to keep doing my best. So I was saying, in this app, I do say the word tribal again, referring, you know, obviously just to this. I've always used the word, for me, like they understand very kindly. I'm going to try to look for something else to say, to mean my family group, you know, my gang, my group I identify with along some similar communal aspects, you know, my teams, whatever, my associations. But I do think Native Americans are an incredibly marginalized and affected people, and I don't want to fucking do anything that takes away from that story or encroaches on it or in any way sort of diminishes that experience of First Nations people in America. I mean, like, it's all obvious, you know, like there's not really a more wronged group in this country, you know. They were all murdered by the people who came here to steal their shit, you know? So that's really fucked. And I can't help it, you know, that's horrible. I don't know. I feel like here I am, another white man. I get to be part of that legacy. I'm getting a little bit too ridiculous here. Maybe. I don't know. I'm doing my best. I'm going to keep doing my best. And I think coming back around to Kanye West and things that are problematic and loving things that are problematic, I don't know what to do with it. Maybe part of the reason I liked it was because I always felt like, man, I'm problematic, you know? I've got these demons too. I've got like a boy's attraction to violence and horniness, and I get all that. I grew up in that. I have that in my body. You know, I have this legacy, this social history of being the oppressor. And I know that because those qualities are mean to myself, you know? Like those feelings of don't act girly or don't act gay or don't act weak or overcome your problems or fix them. Just fucking do it. Pick yourself up by the bootstraps. Well, you know, it's taken me a long time to unpack that stuff and know that it's poopity scoopity, you know? Scooping up poop. And so I appreciate somebody else in the public eye. On some level, I have compassion for this individual who's constantly breaking down and expressing things so wildly and moment to moment, like they're just trying to work it out, because that resonates with my experience. And man, this take culture we live in is really tough. Like, you got to have a hot take all the time. You got to have a team. Most people say one thing and you know every other opinion they're going to have based on the one thing they said. You know where they are. The feed. Me and Tony used to talk about it. My friend Tony, you know, that this thing, it feeds on you and we feed it, and we literally call it the feed on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever. And it's just this thing, this carnivorous entity. And we're all part of it. You know, that's culture. That's this thing. And maybe that's always what it's been, a thing that eats up some people, and other people they're in the ones that are eating the things up and getting full and fat and overpowered on it. And man, it's just a mess. It feels like this hurricane of pinball machines. I'm getting worked up. This is a lot. Anyway, I know this is coming in hot. I just want to say thank you again to my this listener who sent that message. I'm going to do my goddamn best. We talked a little bit more about that. We are going to be having a conversation, and maybe, you know, after we talk, I'll see how they feel, if they would be interested in doing a little mini-sode or something and talking to me more about this stuff. I'm actually into the idea of talking more to listeners, because I've had some people reach out about that too, about their experiences as well, not just my friends who I might know in media or in my personal life, but you know, I'm interested in hearing the stories of different people who are out there across this whole world that might hear it. So I don't really know what the fucking point of this opening was. It was just that I guess being a person is hard, and I implore everybody to do their best at it. And I fail often, and I may have failed in this opening, and I don't know. This is the realest me that I can be, and if I lost some of you, I am sad. That sucks. And if I have given some of you some new thoughts, that's cool. And whatever it is, I'm just all we can do with our good bad brains is keep listening and trying, and probably just doing our fucking best to do more helping than hurting, you know? And so that's me, and we're going to get into all kinds of stuff in this episode. Mitchell. I want to take a moment to just talk about Mitchell. He's just wonderful. I met Mitchell through internet stuff. You know, we met in very strange and cool circumstances of the whole YouTube thing and that's some of the first jumping off and themes that we get into is this idea of the projected self, the version that you are received as, and who you feel you are, your relationship to that person on the screen or for other people, and then yourself. And it might feel, you know, we talk about acting a bit, you know, it might get a little inside baseball in terms of that, but I feel those experiences are analogous, are, you know, nice little metaphors for all of us. I think everybody feels some conversation or difference between their projected and potentially performed self and the self that they feel they are. And you're always having this conversation and this struggle to align those things. And again, I guess that's one of the things I appreciated about Kanye West my whole life, and why, I mean, I can't stop talking about it. I know nobody can stop talking about it, but I feel very deeply connected to this person who's suddenly out there, like, being like this fucking psycho and like supporting fucking people who think white supremacists are very fine people. Fucking our dumbass president. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's a really wild time. It's a really weird time that we're living in America and in technology and the world. And just try to be good to each other. Okay, back on track. Mitchell, my dear friend who I adore, and hopefully will forgive me for this terrible intro, because I think he'll appreciate the madness that we're all experiencing. As one of the people who has been a voice for our bodies outside of our own, has a total breakdown, and you know, there is a concern there mental health wise too. You know, who knows what he's going through. He's been open about the fact that he's on opioids and whatever, and I don't know. We have reactions to the artists who resonate with us when they're out there in the world, because we're like, well, I thought you were me, and now you're doing something that is not me. I think it's actually evil what you're doing. Why are you doing that? Stop doing that, please. And that's, I guess, the relationship we have to ourselves sometimes. Out there doing evil things, this projected version versus me. Damn, I'm fucking spicy today. I don't know what to tell you. So Mitchell and I talk about that. Again, I'm sorry, I do use the word tribe again. I just mean it as the team thing. I'm gonna fix it though. I'm gonna look for something new, and hopefully my friend will have explain to me a little bit more of the context and what those words mean and do. I'm trying. I want to understand. I really do. I'm always trying. And what else? I wrote some notes here. We're talking about crying, emotion control, the sort of like bodily, physical responses we have to crazy internal, mental, emotional, intellectual experiences and that weirdness. He talks about his OCD a bit and just like neurological systems exhaustion. And I'm sure things that you're all experiencing now. So I'm just gonna pump the fucking brakes on me and my good bad brain and ask you to please enjoy the lovely, the wonderful, the wild. Oh, and you know, it kind of is appropriate. I'm so spicy right now because this episode starts spicy. For some reason, this episode just couldn't stop fucking up. Like we recorded 13 or 14 minutes before I realized I hadn't pressed the record button a second time. And so I think I opened this episode with an expletive. But hey, I think that's like appropriate for where we're at right now. This one's a little rocky. This one's a little wild. You know what I mean? And it happens a few times and I think I smoothed it all out eventually and whatever. That's fine. So enjoy this episode with the wonderful, the galaxy brainy, the sensey, and very talented, multi-hyphenate creative force that is Mitchell Davis. And yeah, I hope any of that made sense. I hope you're still with me. Well, this is the real My Good Bad Brain. Hope you accept it. All right. Enjoy the app. Okay, bye. Motherfuck, dude. That was some good shit.
Oh,
that was some good shit. We'll never recreate that shit.
Are you kidding? That peel out that everyone missed?
Which sounds like you're making a joke. That sounds like a very like Mitchell bit too.
Yeah.
There was a drag race outside the apartment just a minute ago. I wish we recorded it. But it really happened. Hi, this is My Good Bad Brain.
And I just heard we've already been chatting for a little bit. I feel good.
I feel good. We're gonna keep going. I mean, like, here's the thing. The conversation never stops.
Wait a second, though. I want to say again, since they didn't hear me. Best intro ever. Please put that on iTunes.
Oh, the song?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, we should talk about that again.
Yes.
Oh my God, this is so meta. We're just going to redo our whole spontaneous conversation.
This is like the podcast world, though. Every once in a while, make sure it's recording.
I'm checking again, yeah. It's rolling now. Now we're getting tuned,
This is like the world I've been living in for 10 years, though, man. Like, recreating things that are, like, kind of fictitious. I mean, that's...
Oh my God, we're going to get deep into that.
Vlogging, YouTube, yeah.
It's
weird.
For you, when I think about people we have on the show, I definitely like kind of think about them and kind of get a gestalt sort of image in my mind of who they are to me and their context, and then try to come up with like some theme that would be a jumping off point for us, which we'll get to. But like with you, it definitely had to do with identity and branding and sort of presentation of self versus sense of self, and how that all then mixes in with like you're told it's your business, it's your practice, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, I mean,
so we'll get there.
Oh,
but I just want to do real life. Yeah, no. So we discovered that we have a mutual friend.
Yeah,
just because you follow his photo. The theme song. The theme song was made by me and my really really good friend Coda,
who I had no idea who it was.
Who had no idea who he was. Didn't know he was a musician.
I just said I follow someone named Coda on Instagram who takes really amazing developed photos, like these over double exposures.
Yeah.
That was suggested to me that I just really loved.
I go, oh yeah, that's Coda.
Yeah, I was like, what a piece. And then you're like, that's the same person.
Yeah, he's just a beautiful, brilliant man.
See, but it just, again, proves to my theory that, like, the wavelengths, we're all, like, it's like we're in a tide pool, and it's just, like, slowly putting us together.
Coda, a tide pod pool.
A tide pod pool. Don't eat it.
We are a dolphin pod. We are a tide pod. We're a tide pod.
We are a tide dolphin pod.
All together.
Hashtag.
And because then we were like, well, that's so weird that... you didn't even know his main thing is being a musician, but you know about his photography.
He photographes.
And that's weird. And then I was like, do you think that there's some kind of force akin to gravity that sort of attracts us to each other? And you said...
I don't remember.
You said something about wavelengths that like... You said like,
yeah. No, I was saying I definitely think that everybody is like... We're beaming and we're like kind of vibrating quietly on this wavelength. Everybody's on a different wavelength, and I think when you are on the same one as someone else, you just kind of slowly are attracted to that person.
Yeah.
Like it just kind of happens
like
naturally.
You all sort of find this place you click into.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, again, I imagine a wave of water, and it just kind of slowly puts you in, like it lets you kind of just drift there, and you don't even realize you're there around all these people until you're there around all these people.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, I feel like incredibly fortunate. I mean, that's part of like the stimulus for making this podcast was I was just like, damn, I looked around my group of peers and acquaintances and friends, and I was like, holy shit, like I don't think it's normal to be surrounded by this many brilliant people, like unique people, seeking people, struggling people with, I was actually talking to one of my friends, actually Coda's girlfriend, Monica, who's also a genius, and she writes and creates this show, Batch, that's on Go 90 with Awesomeness. It's an all-female sketch comedy group that is all written by all women now. This last couple seasons, they're on like 6th or 7th season. They're just really funny, really brilliant.
You check this out.
You got it. It's so good. But she and I were talking about like these brilliant people that we're all close to, and I was like, I do think there does seem to be some kind of thing with like mental, illness or something, challenges or whatever in people who are really brilliant, like who are really, and I was like, I think it's because it's like you have race car brains, and like you can't drive a race car around this. A race car's not a Honda Civic, like you can't drive it every day and not without constant maintenance, like taking it into the shop, because like on a Ferrari or whatever, if you bump a speed bump or something like that, like that's a big you got to go like adjust. They're sensitive. They, but if you take care of it, that thing fucking cooks, And so I feel like a lot of the people who, seem a little crazy or have depression or have a million different things in their brains that seem a little weird are like, to me, in a lot of ways, it's like, it makes me think of like those race car movies where like they're trying to set the land speed record. And when they get that Fastest Indian, the movie about Anthony Hopkins racing motorcycles or something. And like when you're getting as fast as you can, it's shaking and like bolts are flying off and,
Yeah, like, it takes... There's something to be said about like the idea of like, it takes a lot of work to make good work, you know what I mean? And like you're saying, that feeling of just like that, it's so draining. It's like that runner's high. It's that feeling of just like you're doing it and there's nothing left, and it's just there's no way that this could keep going. I don't know. I feel like that's when you're like, you get in this groove.
Yeah, and then you keep going. Yeah, you like break through some spot, and then it's like all of a sudden. I mean, that... I love this idea of the brain as the Millennium Falcon, basically. Like this hunk of junk that like, it goes fast, and then breaks down consistently, but it goes fast.
Yeah, I mean, as a creative, especially freelancing and doing like strange little things and jumping from thing to thing, that is how it is. And that's how I like to present myself, is I like to be like, when I go, I fucking go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
do you have that like, I was gonna say feast or famine, but definitely I have that in my life. But I feel that in reverse. Feast or famine is something one tends to receive. I feel like as a producing entity, your brain like it's either like, oh my god, we're on now. We gotta capture all this shit that's gonna pour out right now for a while because it might be dormant season again soon. Or are you like fairly consistent?
I think it depends on the project. Honestly, I mean, most of the time though, as soon as something is like a go is started, I'm committed. Like it's even after the day is done, it's wrapped, I'm home and I'm sitting on the couch, I'm still there. Yeah. I'm still working on that project until it is finished. Right. And I think that's also one of the reasons why some projects drive me fucking crazy is because, you live with them. They become another appendage on you for a while. And then you get so used to it and so normal with it that you're just like, okay, how do I live without you now? And you don't want to. It becomes a comfort.
With the project, with the work.
Yeah, it's a comfort of insanity. You know what I mean? It's just like this little tiny ball of lightning that I choose to keep in the corner. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Wait, is that to you that's the creative spark, or that is the specific project? Like, what do you associate that ball of lightning with?
I think that's the project at the time where it's like, ooh, I finally caught one. And I think a normal person would be like, that was really pretty. Did you see that shooting star? And I'm like, oh, I put a lasso on that motherfucker.
I love
and
that.
It's in a jar.
Wow.
And I'm going to keep it.
That's cool, because that also that resonates with me, especially. Like, I always have considered creative work to come from outside of me.
Oh, geez, am I allowed to cuss on this? I just
say fucking shit, whatever.
I just realized I said put a mouse on. Okay, yeah. On that motherfucker, yeah. But I think I just.
Do you know what I mean? I've always found creation, I think, comes from outside.
I think the best creation is also the creation that's uncomfortable. Is the creation where you weren't expecting to do it until you were like, oh, that's a passion.
Yeah.
That's in here. That's bouncing around in here too. Mm-hmm. Because those are the ones that like...
That sounds like that's like if you something new you didn't expect, like a new discipline or something.
Sneak up on you.
Do you have one of those?
I mean, I think for me it was... I mean, YouTube is a great example as it snuck up on me. I mean, it's still... I still consistently say, you know, I just made a react video of me watching my old video, and I point to my old self and I'm like, you did this to me. You did this.
Oh, wow.
And it was kind of as a joke, but it was also a very real moment where I was just like, you made all the decisions as to why I'm right here. Because
that boy in those videos.
Yeah, because that boy was harnessing this lightning, that idea. And he still is. And it still is like the residual energy from that is still kind of radiating around me.
Of that kid.
Do
you identify with that kid?
Definitely, for sure. I think...
Still?
Yeah, I like to think of it kind of like a candle where it's like I've just got so many more layers now on top of me.
Yeah, they're like re-dripping.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, he's in there. He's definitely in there. But like, it's evolved so much over time, not because I was trying, but just because that's what time does, erosion.
Yeah.
That I just have, kind of flexed and formed, and but it definitely was like the wireframing.
Something I struggle with in general is like existentially, I guess, embodiment, mm-hmm. And I talk about it a lot here. One thing a lot of people hate who are even in media, even performers, whatever, who are on camera or on mic all the time. You have that initial reaction. You hear a voicemail that somebody that you left for the first time, and you're like, "Oh God, that's what I sound like," or like you edit, you see yourself on camera, you're like, "That's it's weird." It's like an uncomfortable feeling, like because we never see ourselves from the third person. Like there's times I see the back 3/4 of my body on screen, and I'm like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" Like I wouldn't recognize myself.
Yeah.
You started, like, your first big creative outlet was vlogging.
Yeah.
Which is you alone filming yourself and then editing yourself.
Yes.
I'm just going to present my experiences that are my jumping off point to try to understand this. When I've edited things, it was a learning curve for a while, but now when I edit things that I'm in, including like narrative things, like films I've been part of producing or something like that, I dissociate. Like I always talk, like the reason I thought is because when you're talking about those React videos and you're saying seeing him, right? Mm-hmm. Seeing you when you're younger. And that's, I learned very quickly the easiest ambassador for me to work is it's him. It's that guy on the screen. It's not me at all. Even if we just shot it 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So what is your relationship to yourself as a character, as a like thing that's now in a framed...
Yeah. I actually was just talking about this with someone because they were freaking out about hearing their voice for the first time.
Yeah.
And I laughed at them. I was a little drunk. We just got back from a bar. And I just jokingly from across the room said, I've been listening to my voice for 10 fucking years. And she was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I've been I accidentally found out what my voice sounded like before it changed. I've been dealing with this for a minute. Like, it doesn't even faze me. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember when that concept became a thing, I was like, you don't know what that looks like for you? I know what everything looks like. I've edited me to the point where I've tried to look old or shot or, this or that or the other. And it was just, sorry, you tapped on something where it was just like, I am so self-aware of like all those little things. Like even there, I think I noticed tics that don't even exist that in my own edits where I'm like, do I always do that? Or was that just this video? Shit, am I thinking about it? Wait, am I doing it right now in real life too? And I don't even want to say them because then they'll be noticeable. Yeah.
Well, yeah. No, but I think I get that. Keep going. This is really interesting to me.
But I'm sorry. The question was
just that relationship with you to that guy.
I definitely think that I do associate. I know that it's me, but I know that it's a version of me, especially the younger videos. It's a version of me that's not. It's not fully formed, and he's also. Look, it's not a character. That's the one thing that I can never press enough with people is why can't you bring old Live Lava Live back? Live Lava Live. Why can't you bring it all back? And it's like, because I can't bring it. That's like asking me to time travel. I can't do that.
Yeah.
That was that was my experience through the eyes of a 20-year-old Mitchell. I'm a 28-year-old Mitchell now, and I can give you an idea of what it'll be like now, but I can pretend to be 20, but that's unauthentic, and I don't want to be unauthentic. This isn't a show. I'm not a character. I'm a person. The guy on screen, again, going back, I always say that's still me, but it's me 10% like wilder. Like, whenever I see a camera, it's like, okay, Live Lava Live, the difference between Mitchell Davis and Live Lava Live is there's a 10% of just, like, wild factor, wild card. Just like, oh, okay, you want me to do Live Lava Live? Okay, so there's a little bit of energy and anything goes. And, I mean, and I tried to showcase that a lot with old sketches. I really tried to solidify that when I did sketches with Kyle Seibert in, like, the early, middle-ish of the sketch days of Live Lava Live, because I really wanted to get across this point that it's like, okay, I'll be a character, but it's just a character that's based off of me, that's 10% higher, that believes that, yeah, you can use a computer without a keyboard, or yeah, you can write notes on toilet paper, and that's totally normal, and you can actually, get into an argument with someone about it because you believe in it.
Do you act?
I mean, I have, and I do. I didn't mean to. I never was going to be an actor, and then I started working with Newform, and they kind of
that's right
started doing all the
because what you just described resonates with the best acting advice I think acting instruction I ever received, which is do
you want to hear what my best acting advice was? It was from Jack Ferry, and we were driving in the car.
Jack Ferry is a great director.
Yeah,
he's a streaming award winning.
Yeah, he is, which is so cool.
He's great. He's
also
great. Popcorn, obviously.
Popcorn, my podcast co-host. Check it out.
Yeah,
but he kind of taught me the ways because he was producing all the stuff. He taught me the ways of method acting, and I didn't realize that I was kind of already doing it.
Right. That's basically what you're doing.
Yeah, and all of a sudden I realized, oh, and now I can do it, and when I get to pretend to be someone else, it's even easier for me now.
Yes.
Where now, like, the going back to the him, when it's him and it's someone else, if they put me in just like, you just put a little foundation on me, like, I like to say it's the makeup mask. Once that's on me, I'll be whatever you need.
Oh, yeah.
And it is, I'm like, I will go until, like, I don't even realize that I am physically dead until they are cut, done, and I'm home, and I'm like, oh my God, my legs are on fire.
I totally, acting is something that I'll probably dedicate an episode to. I had some requests back when I was asking for suggestions to do it. I think acting is a weird thing to talk about because...
Dude, my first acting gig was with you. I just realized that. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. You're great at that.
Dude, my music, that was... The Fine Bros...
Oh, no, my music, not Fourth Door.
Oh,
my music. Of course. Fucking yeah.
Yeah, that was my first ever... The Fine Bros asked me, they were like, do you want to make a cameo? And I had just been... I just recently started hanging out with Grace, and she got an Airbnb out in Los Angeles because she lived in New York at the time, and I still lived in Ohio.
Yeah.
And I came out and stayed with her, and I remember being so fucking nervous.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But again, they turned me into that, punk, and it was just so, like, on the nose, be a punk. And I was just like, oh, I get this. I get to.
That's a really great environment to get exposed because it's so like forgiving and generous, and they were fun, and that show was like. It was just fun. You just get to dive the fuck in and be goofy. And
I hate that I can't remember his name, but who played the hipster, the main hipster?
Adam Bush?
I loved working with him.
He's wonderful. I literally, I hadn't talked to him in a little bit. We stayed close. He's one of those friends that, that thing we were saying, when we started this in the middle, is conversation resumes. Conversation never stops. I just think that's a life principle for me is conversation never quits,
Yeah.
And that, certain people in your life, I think the best kind are the ones who are on their own journeys, and you might see each other once in a blue moon, like ships in the night or whatever. Mm-hmm. Every time you do, conversation just picks up, and then you leave. And there's no where you been? What's going on? In the sense of hey, where have you been? There's just that. And I was literally driving. I was leaving. There's this rock climbing gym I go to in Hollywood, and I was driving from there to my office, and I was that's Adam Bush passionately speaking into not a phone. He I could see the headsets, but he was talking, with his suit jacket on. I texted him a second. I was hey, did I just see you yelling into a phone headset on Santa Monica? And he was yep. And it was just so perfect, that's how. So he's gonna end up on this thing, but he I'm sorry, you just triggered a lot of thoughts because I met him on My Music too. My Music and that show was my first exposure to YouTubers and stuff. And what you described about when the camera turns on, right? You'll perform till you're dead or whatever.
Yeah.
I do think so. My hesitation to talk about acting is just because it feels like inside baseball sometimes. But I think acting. For people, a lot of people who have some mental stuff, existential stuff, are attracted to it. High school acting classes and things like that, drama programs, I think are so important. Not because people to train actors, we don't need more actors, but and most people won't even ever become actors, but because it teaches you how to do a few things at its most basic level, how to stand in one place in front of a lot of people and speak truth.
Yeah.
That's very hard to do, especially as a teenager. But more than the deeper one for me is start interacting with that existential question of who am I? What makes me who I am? How malleable is that? How much am I just characteristics that I've taken on and points of view and whatever and what's true? That it starts to open up those questions. And I think I've backed away from theater a little bit, especially theater, because unconsciously, I think it just became closer and closer to a pagan religious practice, like a voodoo kind of thing.
Interesting.
For me. And I think what you just described, again, in woo-woo stuff. So this is one of the things that got deleted from our pre-convo.
Oh, yeah.
That we messed up was we were talking about that wavelength thing you were talking about. And, one could argue very easily, and scientifically that maybe that attraction has to do with a lot of subconscious signaling factors in terms of aesthetic you choose, ways you live your life, opinions you hold, professions you're attracted to. And so we all kind of float towards those. And that's how we find each other because of common interests.
Yeah.
But to me, there's a certain point of well, why don't we you can just say wavelength. And that's an easy shorthand for all of that evidentiary sort of forensic examination of it. And that to me is a lot of woo-woo stuff is let me just get a shorthand. And so with this theater thing, with this idea of a religious practice or whatever, the invocation of spirits, allowing ghosts and demons and whatever to come in and take over your vessel and take it for a ride for a little bit. And you say things and do things and think things that you wouldn't as you, but as this character. There's an aspect of the makeup thing you said makes a huge difference too. You put a wardrobe on and then that makeup, there's something about I've painted my face, I've replaced my skin with someone else's.
I mean, and I'm not even meaning heavy makeup. I just mean foundation. I just mean the idea of oh, look, I actually look like a guy who slept last night.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That creates this, to me, there's something, I mean, if you made it a Celtic religious practice with druids and you're they paint their faces and then they get in this big circle in front of a lot of people and then they call down spirits and they do these speeches.
Yeah.
You're that's where theater comes from. That's where movies and storytelling comes from. And sometimes I think spooky things can happen. And the spooky thing is, I guess, as spooky as your mind will let you get. I know that I did this ghost movie, this and we were in this house that was arguably haunted. I don't know, but I remember there's a scene that was supposed to be, and I literally just went up into a dark area of the house and asked for help. I was in the scene. I was hey, this scene's being weird, and I don't really know. I don't know. I don't feel in it, and because I was supposed to be really scared and messed with some crazy shit has just happened or whatever. And I felt it just instantly. A response came like from the house, from the things there, and I just felt like this, like dread, kind of this whole thing that just sucked into my body through my spine, and totally could have been made up and part of my practice and my psychological whatever I needed to do.
Yeah, but you were there mentally, man.
I just went, thank you, and I like ran down the stairs and we did the scene, and I felt good about it. It was good, I feel, but either way, that weirdness of that people do so casually now. As soon as a lens is upon you, you've created this layer of examination with vlogging or whatever, and then if you're doing it on your own alone, literal self-examination.
Yeah.
You know? And then when you get into the acting thing, like that is a thing I have felt for sure with acting, is when you take on a personality, suddenly, yeah, you sometimes you don't give credit to it till you are at home and your legs are burning, like you said, and you're like, whoa, I guess I was really like physical today in a way my body usually isn't.
I mean, okay, a great example was, I wasn't in the show a lot, but I was painted red a lot for Oscar's Hotel.
Yeah.
And I look back on that and just I have photographs on my phone of just like where my skin was like breaking and burning and just like so many things, you know, like I was sleeping like 4 hours a night. I had to buy a new couch because I stained it red.
Well, that too, when people don't give a lot of credit. I mean, we're not talking about fucking coal mining here, you know. I understand that when we say like acting's harder.
Oh, yeah, no, please, woe is me.
to be truthful about it, that's why I think a lot of us are attracted to this gig lifestyle because of this, because we have like brains that like that intensity, like that lightning you were talking about, that ball lightning that you stick in the corner, intensity that's like nonstop. I mean, if I could be on a set, like have a call to set in any capacity every day of my life, I'd be so happy.
Yeah.
But those are 12-hour days. They're so weird. They're that weird kind of hurry up and wait energy that is like bizarrely taxing psychologically. And
see, okay, let me ping on that a little bit. That is something that I didn't realize was going to be a thing, is that you're on set and it's hurry up and wait. And you know what happens when you hurry up and wait? You're in your own head all fucking day.
Yeah.
And that is something that I was not prepared for, in the sense of like going from YouTube vlogging where it's just like I can just sit and talk to a camera for 2 hours and then cut it up into the best 20 minutes, where it's like, oh no, I'm on set for 12 hours and I have 2 lines and I have to get them right.
Yeah.
I've got to say these
things.
And
that I was just saying that today. I've been doing these like one-line bits for a Betch, and I was talking to my buddy James, and we're like, if you have one line, 2 lines, it's way harder than pages of dialogue.
I would rather have pages than just one line, because then as soon as that line happens and it cuts to you, I mean, I don't think there's a more weird feeling. Even if it's like it's just like, well, it just feels, it's like forced, fake, real kind of conversation.
Yeah, and your brain is instantly trying to like make sense of reality, and you're like, what's reality? And there's to me it's like, you know if you're ever sitting and sometimes, especially if you're high or something like that, and a word just stops making sense.
Okay, like, that is a great way to describe what it feels like.
That is what it is.
Because it also, what's so weird is you are, this is what I hate too, when it's a one-line thing and you know the line before and the line after, so you already kind of feel superhuman in the frame. Like, I'll be standing there and I'll hear the person say it and I'm like, now I'm supposed to act surprised and go, are you kidding me? You know what I mean?
That was very good. I wish I had video of that.
But like, that's the truth, because it's like I could mouth me going, oh, you're surprised. Like, I know that, and it's weird. It's forced deja vu. It's like,
it's forced deja vu.
It's so strange,
there's this
man.
thing, I think I might have talked about it here. I'm going to talk about it. I learned about called jamais vu. Have you heard of this?
What is that?
It's the opposite of deja vu, where deja vu is the sense that you've been somewhere that you haven't. Jamais vu is the sense, amnesia. I've never seen some place that I am. Yeah, but that it can suddenly happen. Like the same way deja vu will hit you, that you'll be like, I intellectually know I'm in my hometown. I drive down these streets every day. I know this is my home, but the sense of it is like, where am I? Isn't that weird?
That I didn't even know that was a thing.
I know, it's so cool.
But now I want to read the whole Wikipedia article.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to know.
It's that kind of a thing.
I want to know who was the person who was even like, I think I just experienced something new.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know that stuff, the deja vu thing, like,
I love the idea of deja vu.
I love it. We've all experienced it, and that's one of those things when we talk about the woo-woo stuff, right? Like, like the sense.
I mean, yeah, it goes in there. Like,
well, it's one of those things that I'm like, okay, before we knew what bacteria was, right? Before we knew bacteria, like, gave people colds and stuff, like, people would just suddenly feel bad, right?
Yeah.
And they'd be like, I don't know why I'm cursed now, and I'm dying because I'm cursed with this flu, and then maybe I'll die, maybe I won't. But that's all you knew it as, like a curse, an illness falls over you.
Yeah.
And then we find out bacteria, and we can explain it in some way that makes more sense. The actual thing that happens hasn't changed, but the mechanism is better understood.
Yeah.
You know? And you know, maybe there was some things people started to figure out, like, oh, well, if we wash ourselves more, cleanliness maybe then is next to godliness, and then we're not cursed. Like, the devil can't visit us because we're godly, you know? And that's why we don't get sick. But really, you were just washing your hands more and baptizing yourself, and that was cleaning bacteria off. So then you get something like deja vu, something we've all experienced. Every human has experienced this thing. Like, nobody goes like, you know, I've never had that happen. Everyone's like, oh yeah, deja vu. It's so weird to me that collectively all 6 billion of us, I mean, I'm sure not. I'm sure there's some studies out there of some people trying to figure it out, have just gone like, yeah, isn't that weird? Anyway.
Yeah, no, okay.
Yeah, isn't that weird that the Matrix glitches sometimes? Anyway.
Yeah, that's...
just not going to look at that.
Yeah, just, okay, never mind. Put a blanket on it.
Yeah.
No, man, I think about how many things in like the real world that are strange, that are like the mystery lights in Marfa, Texas, like things like that, like just like all these weird little things that happen all the time that everybody is just like so like blind-eyed to. They're just like, yep, nope, I'm not ready for that.
Right.
I'm not ready to even.
No, that's what you have to do. That's what some people have to do just to survive, just to cope. You just go, okay.
Yeah. No. Okay. Sure.
No space for that.
That was weird.
I had that experience with.
I thrive. I love those moments.
Yeah.
When I find those moments, I want to like dig until I can't stop.
See, I mean, that's who you are. I think that's that wavelength we're talking about. That's the kind of people we are. That makes us these weirdos.
Do you watch Atlanta at all?
I've watched some of Atlanta.
Okay,
it's very good.
I think Darius's character. There's a character named Darius, and that's him. Like, there's a moment where the episode in season 2 where he asks, he's like, "Can I come in with you?" And he was like, "Why?" He's like, there's just a vibe about this place, and I need to go in there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's me. Like,
totally.
I know that maybe I'm not supposed to be here, but I have to know what's going on.
Well, to me, that gets back to this, like, this thing of, like, the race car brain. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe there's, like, a race car spirit or something, too. There, you know, we can't call it, which is, like, I'll be honest, a lot of the most creative people I know, too, have this my good bad brain experience, which is like, I love the things it gives me and it makes my life so hard. And I think one of them to me is like our attraction to that inexplicable experience, that like wanting to get into the nitty gritty of like what's between the building blocks of reality, like what is behind it, like I think is directly connected to some degree to what I interpret as and feel as my inability to exist normally, and like this constant feeling of otherness and this constant feeling of like looking around at society and money and jobs and like life and going like, oh, you all think this is real. Why don't it's not real. I don't know.
You're describing the movie Obey, right? Or
I don't know.
Not Obey. What's the movie called? Where he's like, when he sees the things.
Oh, they live.
They live. You're describing They Live, which is honestly, as silly as it is, I remember when I saw that, I was like, this is so like on the nose what it feels like though when you want to be a quote artist, and you look at the world, like that scene when she's like holding money and then it looks at it and it's just obey and you know, this is your God and shit like that, and you're I mean, dude, some people are very fine though, just being like, no, this is cool though. I'll just keep wearing these glasses.
Well, along with that very cool strangeness, like things that we just sort of like, yeah, that's normal, you know? It's fucking weird that the dollar bill has the all-seeing eye on it at the top of a pyramid. Not new Illuminati shit, just in terms of like bizarre occult iconography. Like, isn't that fucking weird? Like when you just think about it for a second, like, wait, isn't this a government document? Isn't this something that everyone thinks is just normal? Why is it covered in weird religious occult script? And we're all just like, yeah, that's just money.
Yeah. No. Okay, dude.
Come on, that's weird.
There is so many weird moments in this fucking world. Okay, this brings me back to, if you want to talk about Illuminati. Okay, so this is an insane thing. I'm wearing. I just got this Sire sweatshirt.
It's dope.
Jaden Smith put out his new album. Really enjoyed it. And in one of the lines, he's like, "The Illuminati's real. I'll tell you all," or something. Write a book about it. And I paused the music, and I was just like, everybody's like nodding their head and being like, "This is so cool." He just confirmed the Illuminati's real, and if anyone can confirm it, wouldn't Jaden Smith be able to?
I do think that's so funny. I saw him. Jaden Smith is obviously like a totally kooky spirit, but he put a post. I think it was him and his sister, and with the caption I saw the other day on Twitter that was like, obviously looking so cool, there's such good to say, but also, and it said just like it said like life is a simulation or something, like life is definitely a simulation, something like that. And I was like. It was the first time, because I like that shit. I like his weirdness. I like his
I love it.
I love his like, how can we see, what is it, the eyes? How can we see with our eyes when we mirrors? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about,
but famous tweet. It's so good. But like all that shit, I love that shit. But I was like, these are sort of the proclamations of a god emperor boy king, who has no just infinite resources, like the top of the fucking heap. That if you had that and you were artistically inclined, to, like probably you would turn into like fucking Muad'Dib. You know what I mean?
That's it. Thank you. And like I just keep thinking like he's in these crazy inner circles, doing nothing, kind of hanging out, just taking it all in. And now he finally, he does things, he's been doing things all the time, but he made an album, he's doing it musically now, sonically, and that's awesome. But it's just like, the things he's saying, I don't see why he would be lying.
Well, I will say this, lying, I don't think he's lying. Here's what I would think. Because I experienced this. Not that I'm from wealth at all, but I think I've not prioritized money much in my life. I've prioritized, or like normalcy, or I shouldn't say money and normalcy. I should say security. I should say I have prioritized, because I didn't feel like I had a choice. It's just how my brain worked. Like pondering being a human, seeing what being a human is about, being part of stories and adventures and seeing what that shit is. So basically just sitting and being, or going on an event and just being, and that being the focus. If you're Jaden Smith, if you have that life, that is inherently what you're there to do. I think I've established it here, I don't know, but I have this true, sincere belief that we live in a time in history when our bodies are still programmed with all this fear mechanisms to survive, like the Ice Age and shit like that, which is how we came up with, which is very predatory, and came up with all these economic systems like capitalism, whatever, and the need to work on all this shit. But now I think we can kind of see, our spirit knows that, we've gotten to a place that it's not a resource problem, it's a distribution problem. And if there's enough for everybody to go around and be okay. And as automation kicks in the next like couple decades, 50 years, whatever, it's really going to be that. And to me, the state that our souls are meant to be in, like the true heart of the divine nature of humanity, is that all we are supposed to do is do what Jaden Smith is doing, is sit around, think about shit, like experience shit, make creative shit. Like that's really all we're meant to do. And that there's something in the universe, like that is the purpose we serve. I used to think maybe the point of humanity as like in existence, as sentience, was just to produce love. Was just to produce this sort of force that we don't have a way to describe, but has to be made somewhere. The way like plants produce oxygen, and the way like, animals just help, we as animals also help redistribute energy of the sun through our shit and seeds and keep the whole biome moving. But I was like, is there anything unique to humans that we produce that comes just from our thoughts, our hearts, our psychic energies? So anyway, coming back around to what I was thinking about, I don't think he's lying. I do think the times that I spend more, I'll say in my head, but it feels outward, the more time I feel like moving into that psychological, psychic sort of energetic mode of experiencing my reality, the more the notion of what's real gets wobbly.
Yeah.
And that I can start convincing myself or I don't even know if I want to say convincing myself. I start seeing things or understanding things in different ways that I wouldn't be lying if I told you that was true.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a...
Do you know what I'm saying? But I couldn't tell you objectively what truth even would be.
Definitely. I think that there's a comfort. Like, look, okay, there are people who like to, like, explore things. And I like to... the way that there are some people who want to go as deep into space as they can or as deep in the water as they can. I want to go as deep in my brain as I can. Because
you're a psychonaut.
Because at the end of the day, it's like we're barely using most of this thing. It's inside of me. It's hanging out. It's controlling a lot.
Everything. Like your whole perception.
Yeah. And it's also like... I mean, look, as much as it's like it's so conceited, it's so shitty to be like everyone's life is like I'm living Mitchell's world and you're living Jared's world and everything. But that's true, and when you start to look inward and instead of using your eyes to look out and you just start like looking in that void and the darkness and like that area that's kind of it's not even that it's scary, it's unknown. It's a mystery. But it's like, it's the reason that I want to keep diving into my own brain and go in there is because I want to find out. And I think like what Jaden Smith is doing is like you're saying, he's had the time to sit around and dive in there and dig around and he hasn't had to clog it up with fucking money and, I need to worry about going to the grocery store and this and that. Like he literally just sat and didn't have to think about anything.
Right.
And he got to like, I feel like there's such a clarity to that. I've tweeted and I'll say it many times. I wish I had enough money that I never had to think about it again. That's my fucking goal in life. Mm-hmm. And I don't ever want to have to see it again. I fucking hate money.
Yeah.
I hate that it controls everything. It's literal. I mean, it's paintbrushes could be made out of dollar bills.
The craziest thing to me about the money thing, I mean, we're going to be on the same page about this. So we don't have a devil's advocate here to defend money. Sorry, money. But the craziest thing is trying to talk to people about this idea of money and being like, we should live without money. Like we should move into a society where there's no money. That's what we should do. If we could restructure the whole thing and do it, that's what we should do. And that people will literally sometimes be like, well, how would you pay for stuff? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, no. I understand it's so deep in your paradigm of understanding.
That's what I'm saying. It's
everything
so embedded.
Must be incentivized. We only operate from incentive. I was thinking today, potentially, because I credit capitalism with the evil of the notion of incentive, the notion that I will only do something if I have a reason, a cost benefit analysis reason to do it, which is fucking bullshit in my experience and my experience of any other human in the world who has any kind of intrinsic interest in anything. People will do things because they're curious and passionate and just for no fucking reason they'll do things, you know? But anyway, I was like, maybe there's an argument that the incentive thing comes out of a kind of natural selection environment thing, like this, like, you know, genes are selected for by nature because they're better at surviving, and that could be argued as like a kind of like natural law of incentive. I don't know. But I think that the way that our vessels only exist to shuffle around energy from the sun for other organisms, you know, I think our body might only be here existing, surviving to shuffle around whatever the sort of divinity energy of consciousness is that our vessel holds.
Yeah.
That like it's just to keep the vessel alive. And in attempting to keep the vessel alive sometimes really gets in the way of us experiencing our inherent divinity that we possess. Yeah.
And I think that is something that I think a lot of people don't even realize is like going on. But
I think so too.
The whole like, you know, sheeple, but the concept of just like it's so mundane and they're so used to this like kind of this pattern, this repetition that they never stop to like think for a second, like, well, what is actually going on here? Like, what's, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm having some epiphanies, I feel like, right now that as we talk about it.
Well, because I just, especially when I moved to LA from Ohio, everything about my day changed, you know, like, and I just I always say it's the year I monked out. I got quiet. The first year, and I learned a lot about myself and how I do things in a new environment, and how like, hey, my normal pattern's gone. Like the footsteps that I take that have been here so fucking long that I don't even have to think about it. They're gone.
Yeah.
And you don't realize like how comfortable you get in that until it's like you wipe it all up. You know what I mean? And, and there is that in your head too, in the process of how you think. So when you start to turn that shit off and you're like, okay, well actually let's think about this in a different way or the wrong way for a little bit. Let's play devil's advocate by ourselves for a little bit. You'd be surprised all of a sudden like what you come up with and like what you find that was bouncing around in there that you're like, shit.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a second. I actually love that.
Yeah. Do you have any of those in your head right now that you that made you think of?
I mean,
and not to be on the spot. It doesn't. I think just the idea alone is interesting.
I think currently, like I told you, I'm kind of going through a breakup. Not kind of, I am, and I think that's definitely putting me in a situation where I'm thinking as a single unit again. I've been so used to having a partner in crime, quote unquote, for a year plus now. And like all of a sudden, again, those footsteps, that comfortable path of doing things together all the time. Like I'm all of a sudden being reminded of like, oh yeah, you can do this alone again. And also you can redo it all. You just start fresh.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just...
Yeah.
Look, I think a lot of people are afraid to like clean slate their brains every once in a while.
Oh yeah, but that makes sense. I mean, like I so this whole idea, the thing where the evolutionary protections of the body versus like the divinity that it shuttles around. Because to me, in that divinity, that consciousness that it shuffles around, this sense of self that we. That's a car alarm, whatever. That sense of self that we have just inside of us. I think like that is the source of all that introspection. That's that dark, mysterious abyss you're talking about. That's where all these like new thoughts and things exist. But the thing, that framework around it that you need to peel back and like clear out that you're talking about is the instincts of the body that are there to protect you. I started to think of it as I'm Calvin and Hobbes in one body. That I am both. My body is this tiger, this like crazy ass tiger, and inside of it is this like neurotic kid with all these thoughts. And you know, sometimes sometimes the kid is the outside and the vessel is the tiger, and that's the true self, whatever. But in my personal understanding of myself, it came to be embodied by the wolf, I called him. That there was like the wolf is my body. I started to see it as like this little kid inside of me, like basically myself when I was a little kid. I pictured it as like a photograph of myself when I was young. And then this wolf, which kind of was like a German Shepherd-y dog or whatever, the wolf. And that sometimes the wolf, I think this is why I have so many physical practices too, is like I remember being in a really bad place psychologically one time, like really fucking bad. And I did one of my coping mechanisms, which I was like working out. When I worked out, I used to work at a gym. I had access to it alone. There were these mirrors on the wall, and I had a very bizarre like Gollum Smeagol experience where I was sweating. Like my heart's burning. I had gotten deep in this work. I was starting to like exercise some of these horrible feelings that I running from or trying to figure out. And I remember like staring my eyes in the mirror, which I still have weird things with my reflection. Again, this is the vessel, the sense of the person on the screen when you edit, a dissociation with that. And I was staring there and my body, the wolf, started talking to me like not me. It was weird. It was like I just let my body talk, you know?
Yeah, you're having an inner monologue, man.
But it was like weird and external, and my face was like literally changing. It was very weird, and you know, whatever. And maybe because I'd seen it and it was something I understood as a dramatic. But I was alone and just having this experience. And he told me that he said that he would always come back for me. He's like, my body's like, I'll always come back for you. And it was a very weird experience of like understanding this thing is fragile, this divinity. It's precious and it's like fragile, but it's beautiful and it's the source of all the good things that people make. And my body, this like scary wolf that like works on itself and makes sure it's strong and does all these things, is like, hey, I'll take the fucking reins if you ever need it. And he'll take it with aggression, and it'll protect me, and it won't be that nice to everybody else necessarily. It'll be selfish. It'll do what it needs to do. And that might not be the thing that shepherds my inner child and divinity to its most noble heights.
Yeah.
But it'll keep it alive.
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah.
And it takes a practice of getting in touch with that thing, because that's the source of money. That's the source of like violence. That's the source of cruelty of parents that truly just want to make sure. I think that all comes from some place of like, well, I have to be hard on my kids so that they survive. You know, and sometimes it's paying their own wounds forward, and there's a lot of other reasons.
Boy named Sue.
Yeah, but I think it really is that kind of a thing, and that is the experience that we have with our own, where our body is like a parent to our own inner child, and is like sometimes needs to shut that fucking dumbass little like lovey-dovey source, energy source down, and be like, hey, I gotta fucking protect you right now, okay? We gotta make money, we gotta take things seriously, we gotta look serious, we gotta look like a grown-up. We have to fucking buckle down and have a life and be normal, okay? Because this is real, and life is real, and it's dangerous out there. What if you end up homeless? What if you end up fucking crazy and homeless, okay? I need to do this. And so it like makes that voice, you start burying it.
Yeah.
And until you can learn how to talk to that and say to the wolf and go, this is what I had to do. I had to eventually realize I couldn't shun the wolf, because the wolf will never go away. The wolf will rip itself back into my life. That I had to get to this place where I was like, wolf, good boy. Thank you. Thank you for, I know you're trying to protect me. You don't have to be mean to these people anymore. You don't have to take a bite out of anybody who loves you anymore. You don't need to do that. I'm getting it together. It's okay. Calm down. I'm going to be in charge for a little while. And only when I could start that conversation, because the wolf also likes to be out. They go, oh, good. It's very anxiety inducing to like be hackles up all the time, trying to survive in this weird reality. Yeah. And they get to rest. And then you get to really enter that weird existential space of, what the fuck am I? What are we? What are we doing? What am I doing? Yeah. And beautiful things happen there. And I think it's just, there's something nice to know also that if you get too far there, the wolf's going to be like, hey, where you going? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely feel, okay, the way I've always felt like it is, when you're editing a photo and you can like separate the CMYK or the colors, like the yellow and the blue and the yellow. Yeah. Is I feel like when I'm walking, those three are in constant sync. But every once in a while, the blue, he walks a little slower. And then you see the yellow, and then you see the red.
I really like that.
But like, that's how I see it. I'm just putting in like my vibe. Yeah. Because every once in a while, blue notices, hey, I need to catch up, or red starts running away, or, it starts to warp a little bit to the side, and you start to see my edges. Yeah. And I think that for me is how I go about it, where that's how I let myself go every once in a while. Is I really try to separate and peel back all those kind of like those layers, those colors, and be like, what is that? Like, what is this, the red? What is the blue? What am I trying to do with yellow? When they're all together, what am I trying to get out of it when you look all the way through it? You know what I mean? Do I want you to be able to see through it? Like I joke all the time that I want to be clear, like a plastic bag, because you can't read me at all. And because I genuinely thought that was fascinating, the idea of being like invisible, the idea just kind of floating, just being there. And I don't know, I think about it a lot, where it's like, if those things all get so far apart, there's no original anymore. There's just like these slivers running around, and you've gotta keep them in line to work together, because that's when you get the most done. You have the most like tangible power when all those things are in line. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's like the movie Ghost, where he's like, when he's trying to hit something, he's like, you've got to really focus on it. It's like, you've got to really like inner line, like you're saying, the wolf and the boy and you and everything. And when you really want to move it, that's when you can fucking move it, when they all swing at the same time. And I feel like you got to do that sometimes with your mind, where it's just like, okay, we need to attack this, but all of us, or we all need to leave it alone. And that's just like, I feel like that's what I'm constantly
with the colors, do they like the color selves, the shadow selves that like float around each other, do they represent anything that aligns with their color, you know, like a chromatic, like emotional, psychological sense, or are they just sort of different?
I think it's all. I mean, honestly, I think I'm as basic as saying it's almost more of like emotions. It's more of just like slivers of thought, slivers of the identity of me. Like there's the version of me that's just like, fuck yeah, and then there's the version of me that's like, let's think about this, you know, and then there's a version of me that's like, I don't want to talk at all, and then there's a version of me that's going to say everything the whole time and never stop. And it's about,
well, you know, I think a lot of people feel at a certain point they've got to pick one,
and I know, and that's why I'm saying don't, like, just collectively learn to like let them work together, be a unit. And that's what I'm saying, you can make the most if you figure out how to harness the best bits of everybody. You don't need to be like, actually, I'm just going to be red and deal with me being an asshole sometimes. No, you don't have to.
Yeah.
When that, like...
Yeah, I think, well, because I think an instinct to choose one is because this has been
fucking easy.
Yeah, this has been an emerging thought for me is that...
people love comfort, man.
Well, they do, but we're also not allowed to be wrong.
No.
Like, there's no part of us that's allowed to be wrong. And if you don't, like... pick one, like that means nothing's right. So if you don't have a right, if you don't say this is the right one, this is the real me, that means you must be the wrong one. Like, we're so binary, and also that means we don't believe paradoxical things could exist in the same place at the same time. So it's very hard to just say like, I'm literally all of these things at once, and that's okay, and that makes sense in the universe.
Yeah, it's really like it's frowned upon to be like too outside the box, and I think that's crazy. Like I can't.
Yeah.
Like the idea that I feel like, okay, how do I even say this? This is like, I feel like we've come to a halt in a universal, oh, we're done. And I'm like, no, we're fucking not. Like, I feel like everybody thinks that we've hit it. We've peaked or some shit. Like, as us as humans, we're like, we did it. We fucking did it. And I'm like, no, man, we did not. 200 years ago, we didn't have cars, okay? Fucking, we did not do... Let's keep going. Let's keep Elon Musking, okay? Like, because I just feel like so many people just look around and they're like, yeah, this is good. I guess this is how it'll be till the sun burns up or whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, no. When the sun burns up, we better be like conscious floating. I just feel like there's so much more leveling up to do, and all of us right now, we're at this stagnant time where we feel that it's okay to stop moving around. Like, I just watched Jurassic Park, and I'm gonna say this, okay? Where it's like, we feel like we're like, hey, we beat extinction, we did it, and we've already figured out how to be a world. And we're doing it. And I just want to be like, yeah, but that doesn't mean we got to stop advancing. Like, this is not the best it can be. Mm-hmm. I know I'm not the best. This is not the best. What is this? And I just feel like that's, as a collective, like the fucking hive mind, the whole big mind underneath is like, it's just beaming if you go down there and let it fucking thrive. I don't know. It's just... It bothers. I think about this all the time by myself, that it bums me out that I'm just like, there's a whole brain. We live on like a big fucking brain, and it's kind of like we just sat and was like, okay, shh, we're good.
The hive mind, you mean?
Yeah. And even though that there are, like I said, there are people out there who are like, no, dude, we could keep going. We could keep going if we wanted to, and but there's just enough people to go, yeah, but we're good. Part of me
that makes me think, I really like that metaphor of this like big brain that we're all on top of or part of, you know, and if the earth itself, I mean, that jives for me too, with this idea that like the earth exists in this tiny sliver where our life is possible.
Yeah.
Like I think about that sometimes, how fucking funny it is.
We are a flea on the back of Earth.
Isn't it hilarious to think like, the temperature raises 10 degrees and you're like, oh, I'm too hot.
Yes.
And then it goes down and you're like, I need a jacket. In a universe that is millions of degrees of, you know, and so we're this tiny sliver of this tiny space where this thing could happen. this thing that could create poetry and dreams and
Pale
deja
blue
vus,
dot, man.
all this, yeah. And what if then we are just here as this weird little factory to be a communal brain? That makes me think, that actually makes me more sympathetic to people who are not necessarily into pushing the thing, because I think of our own brain, where it's like my favorite parts of my brain are the ones that like can smell coffee and like have and think that's a more poetic and deep experience than a huge night out at the theater, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like all that stuff. But the parts that are also important are the parts that make me shit and that like you know make me. What other boring shit does your body do? My muscles move around. I can walk. I can like
breathe,
breathe, all that dumbass shit.
Yeah.
And you know, if we are a hive mind that has something like that, then it stands to reason. I mean, that it stands to reason that some of us would be here to be these dreamers and be the dream parts of your brain. And some of us would be here to be the thing that makes sure your heart keeps autonomously beating.
Oh, I guess that's true.
You know what I mean?
That, yeah.
Because there is this sort of, onus put on everybody. I think this has to do with binary understanding of the universe and sort of like an idea that like things, it's not okay to be wrong, so there must be a way that's right, that like wants to be projected on everybody else. And people will give lip service to like, well, everybody's different, everyone's unique, you got to find out what works for you. And even nutritionally, you know, I think about this with nutrition, like I gave up a long time ago trying to find out like that there's actually one nutritional guideline exercise sort of regimen that works for everybody and that's the right one. It's like truly the same way peanuts will kill some people and some people just love peanut butter. It's a good source of protein. Same, you could say like some people should be vegetarian. Some people are supposed to eat more animals. Some people like, and that there's this kind of thing that then goes wider to like purpose in the universe, role in society. This idea that like everybody should be able to make a lot of money. Everybody should be able to be an Elon Musk if they push themselves hard enough, you know, or whatever is bullshit. Like we're supposed to be different because, I mean, what other organism in the universe is like the cells in our body? There's white blood cells and there's red blood cells, and they all do different fucking jobs. So
good, yeah.
This is good. I like this one.
I never thought of that.
I don't think I did either.
But see, that makes a lot of sense because then it makes me. But see, there's
worker bees, there's queen bees.
That still makes me think, though. It's just like, gosh, if we all came together, like, what could we accomplish if we were a fully functioning brain? Because you know that
if we really could get in harmony.
If we could get in harmony, that's what I mean. If we could really get that. Well, I mean,
that I think, you know, it's funny you mentioned Elon Musk, because Elon Musk to me is in my genuine honest reaction, Elon Musk is problematic to me. Is like, on the one hand, I do not deny that we're built to dream, we're built to hope, and seeing this fucking individual person, you know, in a gross capitalist society actually scrape shit together to be like Lex Luthor and be like, I'm gonna build fucking rocket ships and I'm gonna do all that. That's inspired. The idea that you would even like, that is what I would generally support, is the goofy use of resources to be like, I'm going to build a company that makes flamethrowers and it's going to be funny. You know, like just as a gag. I love that. At the same time, the humanist in me and the sort of like socialist in me is like, hey, Mr. Billionaires, hey, Jeff Bezos, who's like suddenly, I guess, the great new hope of like, you know, humanity and I don't know, whatever, is like, you have fucking employees on minimum wage in your warehouse factories that are have to be on food stamps while working full time for you, and you have $127 billion. So it's like these billionaires. I'm like, I love that you're trying to get rockets on the moon, and that's got to be fun for you and your weird experiments. But also, you know, why don't you just raise the floor for everybody a little bit? Why don't you like take some time? You know, I saw something that was like Jeff Bezos is $127 billion or whatever. It would cost $55 million to fix Flint water system. You know what I mean? Like, and you start to go like talking about harmony, man, again, it, you know, in this idea we were just looking at, yes, some people are going to fucking be screaming out in front of the pack, doing the things that they're doing, dreaming in the stars or whatever. And I love that. But you're also like, oh, fuck, it would be so cool if this getting in harmony as a brain could happen. It would be more likely to happen sooner if you raise that floor.
Yeah.
You know, if we get, the closer we can get everybody to a Jaden Smith status, where like you just got to hang out and think and dream and see what you want to do.
Yeah, because you're right. You'll never find that harmony with the construct of like this hierarchy of like, I'm better than you. Like it will never work.
You won't.
Will never, like no person would ever agree to actually not even agree, but enjoy themselves as being part of a unit and being like, oh yeah, I'm part of the shitty unit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that to me is inherently the problem with money. The thing that's unpleasant about money is I don't think people are like, well, if you don't have incentive, who's going to do the bad jobs? Who's going to do the stuff that sucks? Mm-hmm. And I think that's a fair question. I think as we get robots more and more, there'll be less like people who have to shovel literal shit or something like that. But even barring that, the value placement that money creates, saying it's better to be a CEO, it's better to be a celebrity than it is to be a bricklayer, than it is to be an office worker or something like that, to me is like, well, two things. One, I do believe we're at a place resource-wise that if we just wanted to and distributed correctly, and figured it out, like, you wouldn't have to do anything if you didn't want to. Like you could just live in a house and think about shit and have food to eat and write it down.
I love that in like the early 50s, it was all like, in the future, men and women won't be working more than 2 hours a day.
Yeah, which we could be doing, but we have this illness.
Instead, it keeps getting longer and longer.
It's crazy. Like that's like all that stuff too. That's like, oh, our workplace has like chefs on staff and massage tables. Like Google and stuff like that. All those things. That's a trick so that you don't leave the office. That's on purpose. You live there. And it functions, which is so weird. But like, I also truly believe if you didn't have money as this thing that said that, I think humans' brains are kind of, in our sense, our organic physical sense of reality, are sort of simple. Like we can't see anything that can accumulate and not associate some kind of moral good to it. That if you have a lot of it, that's better. If you have, that like there's, so if you have more money, that's better. And there's something implicit in that says we should listen to you. Not necessarily that you're good. I kind of think still that we have a sort of sense that if someone's rich, there must be something good about them. Now we know there's also obviously this thing that we all have, like the evil rich people or whatever. Yeah. But we still like listen to them and pick them as leaders. And this thing creates this false idea, a false metric of who is the one that should be listened to, should be in power, who is good. And more than that, I think is rooted in what's preferable. I would prefer to be rich because that would mean I'm better and I would have an easier life and I would be the better kind of person. But I think left to like nothingness, like no value of money, like we're all just in a tribe. You still have artisans. You still have people who like make baskets or who like make fucking books or who hunt or who farm, and there's an inherent intrinsic joy in that interaction. Some people get a lot of pleasure out of building something out of wood, and other people just don't feel that. And if there was there would still be people doing those things if there was no money. Yeah. I truly believe.
Yeah. It's just if you allowed that person who enjoyed just building to be like, yeah, just build for the rest of your life and you'll be fine. Just keep building houses and you'll be fine. Would they do it?
Well, I think a lot of people would, or at least they do it, and probably they do it in a more sane way. They might like do it longer, but in shorter and like less insane spurts. Yeah. Right now, it feels like our society, which is proven to be a complete lie for our generation. there's this feeling that it's like a insane, brutal sprint of never fucking quit, always grind 24/7. You're gonna make it a lot for like the first 40 years of your life, or sorry, the first second, let's say. After 10, after 15, the next 25, 30, like just fucking balls to the wall.
It's unreal.
And then you can do nothing. But like, that's insane. That's insane. What? My life ends when I'm fucking 45, 50? Yeah. I'm just supposed to be done now?
Well, and also it's just like the amount of wear and tear. I don't know if I can take that.
Well, that gets into our 12-hour day thing again with the brains and the movie set thing is like, I was thinking about that, and this might be a thing that is, makes this a little bit more applicable to like everybody, like because not everybody, like because the idea of a movie set or this sort of like bouncing a one sentence in your brain and how strangely exhausting that is. There is in exercise and fitness and stuff like that. There are certain movements, big compound moves, a snatch or a clean and jerk, things they do in the Olympics with a barbell, are very complicated movements biomechanically, like as opposed to like a curl or just like a press, like a single movement that are actually very taxing to your central nervous system. Interesting. Which is why they're usually done in low amounts, and especially at high weights when you're doing like high end strength work. Yeah. It's actually often is less to do with muscular ability than your neurological ability to fire your muscles correctly. Like when you get stronger at 1 rep max levels, like just I can do it one time and move it, a lot of that is training your nervous system to handle big weights and move big weights, and basically teaching your brain to not say like, oh, I'm going to turn these muscles off because we're going to get hurt.
Yeah, like,
you know?
Yeah. Oh wow,
And
that's so crazy.
Yeah, and so sometimes you'll find a thing like if I just do a push-ups or a bench press or something like that, and I wait 10 minutes and or 5, you separate them, you can move a lot of weight. But if you add in like, okay, I'm going to jump around and then I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do this, suddenly you feel much weaker. And it's not because you're physically weaker. It's because your central nervous system is so overloaded that it's like, what the fuck is going on? And you actually become functionally weaker or more tired or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I think that if you like do a sprints or something or run and then you try to lift a heavy weight right after it, it's way harder. And it's like, but I wasn't even using my arms. It doesn't make sense. I'm not fatigued, but your nervous system is so tired. And I think that's a fun, like very physical version to really understand, like just having a thought bounce around forever can be physically exhausting.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And that's a great way to describe that. Like, when when I have like an idea or a project and it is still just like a concept or paper, it's always so interesting to me when I'm trying to describe to people how exhausted I get when I seem like I'm doing nothing with it all day.
I think it's like traveling. You go for a flight and you get to the end of the flight and you're like, I'm so fucking tired from traveling all day.
Yeah, it's because you just thought.
It's like, what did you do? What did you do? I sat in a lift to the airport. I walked a little bit. I sat on a plane for hours. I walked a little bit. I laid down in my hotel. And you're like, I'm so tired. But I think the input, new environments, potential threats, like moving stuff around, keeping track of schedules. Where am I going? I'm worried I'm going to be late. I might not make my plane. Oh, I got to take my shoes off. I got to put them back on. Blah, blah, other thing. I think just the thinking and input makes your body go, I'm so fucking tired.
Well, I think people just forget that it's a muscle. You are working all damn day.
Yeah.
And it's a muscle that like you flex. And you depending on what you do, man. I mean, I know some days where at the end I've edited for fucking 8 hours.
Yeah.
That I feel like my brain is going to melt. Like, I mean, I feel like I've been working out all day, like to the point where I'm sweating. Like I will legitimately have like sweat stains on my shirt from just editing. I haven't moved my body.
Yeah.
But it's because in my mind though is he's lifting weights so fucking hard.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that gets into just like our stupid body. Like our stupid body has sort of limited mechanics, and like the sweating one and some of those things. I was just talking to my friend about these fear mechanisms that we have, and that like. We call it stress. People don't call it fear; they call it stress a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's because it's easier.
It's easier.
It makes you feel less weak if you say I'm stressed.
I also think it's because it seems less insane. There's something like that feels so like what's the word?
You feel out of control.
It feels so like Baroque. It feels so like I'm writing a Norse fucking poem or something when I'm like. I'm dealing with fear today.
Yeah, like I'm in a lot of fear right now.
Instead of being like, I'm just stressed out. Instead of being like, my body thinks I'm going to fucking die right now.
Yeah, but
and I'm telling it I'm not going to.
That is exactly what being stressed is, though, is this feeling of your body, like your insides. Okay.
But that is why you sweat. That's why all this thing. You have these physical reactions because they're the physical reactions that would help your body be better prepared to not die.
Yes, like it's still going through the motions as if you are freaking out,
right?
And your body is trying to compensate and send help, and just do whatever it can.
Well, that's I mean, and there.
Okay, sorry.
No, please. I go crazy.
I was going to say that's some reasons why a lot of times I will crash. I will fall asleep. I will nap in the middle of the day if I get too quote stressed. Where if I like currently I'm working on an album of B-sides music stuff for my Might See Hell, but it's last night I had to name 45 songs. by listening to them, and then kind of, I already had ideas, but I had to like finalize the names, and it's something that I've been dreading because names mean so much to me.
Of course,
because of course it's the first thing that they're gonna assume so much by just reading that. And as soon as I was finished, I fell asleep in front of the computer.
Yeah,
and I woke up like 2 hours later. And I was just like, oh my God, I just passed out. What just happened? And I know it was because I finally did it in my brain. It had been clenching. It had been clenching and clenching. And I'd let it like just run. I let it off the leash and it just did its thing. And I did all those names and it was over. And my body gave. And it was just like, whoa, I didn't even realize I'd been beholding all that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's a daily, I think people can just give credit to that in their own, like that thing you just said, I didn't even realize how much I'd just been holding.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's
clenching.
It's a feeling like that fear, that stress is like, it's just this tension. And it's like, I always, when I'm walking the dog, I always think of it like when they pull just a little bit, when they smell something that's like really good, and they do that extra little pull, and they know they're not going to get it, but they just have to do it. It's like your brain's doing that, and it's going towards whatever it is you're thinking, and eventually you've just got to like unclip it and just like let it like run at it as hard as possible, but just know that when you hit, you're going to crash.
Yeah.
And
I find that I get that experience if I've had big arguments, emotional arguments. Literally, if I have a big emotional argument, I have started to, like, I get drowsy immediately. Like once it starts to die down, I'm like literally falling asleep sometimes. I've
had crazy epiphanies where I will just like start sobbing, and it's not even sad, but I'm just so overwhelmed with the idea that I just realized that, and that, holy shit, how did I not realize it sooner?
That's really interesting, especially the sobbing, because again, this gets into like our body's limited mechanics for understanding the experiences that we're going through. Like crying is typically a response. I have the same. I guess I associate it now. I cry kind of easily and sort of unexpectedly at things. But then there's things that you'd expect to cry at that I don't. I don't know, but like
me neither.
I think it has to do with a sense of scale of mass. That like if I experience something, that tends to be my experience, is that like it's enormous. I'm seeing something, I'm experiencing something just so vast and unknowably infinitely large that you when touching that, my brain just goes like, ah!
Yeah, like
you start crying.
That is exactly what it is. It's when my brain accidentally pokes something and it's too hot and I just can't help it, and my eyes just, I always say it's just like my eyes just start sweating. Like my eyes just freak out. Because see, here's the thing too, is I will say, because I've been dealing with this because I was I cry easily, but I don't cry at movies like you're saying. So a lot of times people are always like, what is going on with you? Why are you about to cry right now? And I'm like, sorry, my body just, I'm very emotional right now. And this is the only way that I can extract that emotion without actually losing my mind.
Yeah, I fucking feel that.
I feel like
it's like a release, it's like a pressure valve.
It's like my body has to actually physically pump something out to get it out. Like it needs to just leave me, and it's going to do
You're like exercising it.
Yeah, and like the first time it ever happened, actually, it was so crazy. Is I was getting super in trouble in school, in high school. I was like that shitty, like jokester, punky, stupid kid, and I got fucking reamed one time and so much trouble, and it was by accident. I did not mean to.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got called to the principal's office, he started talking to me and I started crying. And he was like, I'm sorry, you're like the asshole of the school. What are you doing crying in the principal's office? Like this is so not what I was expecting. And I looked at him and I was like, I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry.
I've experienced that. That's so weird.
And I remember that day I had to I had like a realization where I was like, wow, my body cries when it doesn't know what to do, when it's it's just overzealous and it's just like too much. And some people run and some people scream and some people do this and turn red. And I just like, my face doesn't even clench. It's just water comes down. It's weird. Yeah. It's weird.
I totally get that.
Yeah. Like I've tried to explain it and come up with a phrase, because I'm like, it's not crying. It's like releasing. It's weird. I feel like my face is just kind of like sad puking.
Yeah, but even sad isn't like it exactly.
Yeah, because it's not always sad. It's literally just like.
That's funny that you say puking, by the way, because I used to think with acting and stuff like that, so, like the initial like civilian question, especially when I was younger, was always like, especially from younger people, was like, so can you cry? Can you just like cry?
Can you cry?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, can you cry? And I would be like, yeah, but I can like barf and sneeze and stuff too.
I could shit my pants right now too. If you want me to.
Like, I've seen people cry in performances, and you feel nothing for them. You know they're just turning it on. And also, like the idea, like if a script says they start to cry or something like that, that's fucking dumb. Never put that in a script. You can put that in there, but I'll just know that the proper way to interpret it is always going to be like that's the feeling, tone, and experience of what's going on.
Exactly.
Because some of the most devastating, sad, horrible, grieving moments of my life there's been nothing.
It was
coming
dead
out
silence.
Of me.
Yeah. Wow, that was good, because it's like that also goes into saying like, yeah, some of the actual moments where you think a person would normally be going through like a crying, grieving kind of moment. I mean, I play it like a comedian, you know, like, I mean, and those are maybe some of my best days. My funniest jokes are told on those days, and you have no idea it's because it's fueled by this sadness, this rage, where it's just like, oh no, I'm making me laugh right now, man.
Yeah, I mean, you're like you're a love machine. Like you're like you take things into your Starbelly Sneetches machine or whatever. You take things into one end, and then you spit it out this other thing. I really think that's again getting into that sort of like, if plants take in carbon dioxide and spit oxygen out so that we can all like have other organisms be alive. It's like there's something in me that says the best version of humans is you take in grief, you take in the sadness and horror, and you take in even physically, you take in this gritty, worldly, earthly experience, muddy experience of life, and then you turn it into laughter, comedy, humor in the universe, a kind of love, a kind of appreciation, and a sense of beauty, and that's divinity to me. That's God in shorthand for me.
Yeah, I mean, and see, okay, and this is actually a thing that we were talking about that got cut off in the beginning, which is like what you were saying, the idea of God, like how people are afraid to say God just because it
means political things,
so
and like, you mean like a Catholic church God with a big fucking
so you're
beard?
A religious person?
Yeah,
okay, never mind. Bye.
Yeah, you must not like gay people very much.
I was the super same. I remember I was like, I would love reading self-help books, and then when they would be like, and then I turned to God, and I'm like, fuck, I hate
this is
book.
12-step stuff too. I did Al-Anon for a little bit,
and I'm just like,
and people get really uncomfortable at like that you surrender yourself before God, and it's like, and a lot of them say now a God of your understanding or something, so that you to get clearer about this. To me, with 12-step stuff, humbling yourself before it and saying like, this problem is bigger than me, and the thing that's going to help me fix it is bigger than me, and it being called God in shorthand there, to me is part of the first like hurdle to get over in getting your ego out of the way.
Yes.
And if you can't get over that, a fucking word that is connected, and you can't get a personal relationship to whatever that sense of bigger than you purpose, whatever thing you're part of, then good luck fucking getting over your problems.
Well, yes. Yeah. I mean, like, they might as well just be writing the word sun or universe. I mean, and that's, I think that...
They might as well write the inexplicable scientific energies and forces we can't tell you about yet. They might as well call it fucking...
spaghetti monster.
Yeah, dark matter. I just call it dark matter a lot of the time now.
It's kind of related. It just feels like it makes sense right now, but I was just talking to somebody about this, and I was talking about the idea of... the band they had this the Secret Teachings of the Mystery Lights was this little book that came out with one of their albums that I really took keen to, and one of the reasons why I got these triangle tattoos is because it kind of has like a layout, like a guide way, it teaches you a way to live your life as you are universe. You are a little universe.
Yes.
And I just want to say this just to put it out there again, because I really it helped me so much realize, like, okay, I am a thing on a thing on a thing. It all is small. Everything is meaningless. Fuck. But if you think about it in terms of, okay, so I'm the little Mitchell universe, you know, all the little things around me are my little moons and all this stuff. And, you know, like, and I take care of it, and I actually like love it and work on like kind of keeping the universe in line the way that the universe keeps us in line with everything, you know, like a smaller scale version of what's actually going on. You get this, I remember feeling this purpose where I was just, I felt better, and I just felt like, oh, that's what I'm doing, is I'm controlling all this, and I am a sun, you know, and these are my earths, and these are my things, and anything I create, those are my moons, and I need to make sure that they all stay in rhythm and keep going around me, and I want to keep powering them and all these things. And I just feel like it's very important to find out, like, you have to understand, like, when you get to those steps where it says, like, surrender yourself to God or whatever, it's like, no, man, just surrender yourself to understanding that you're not just this, like, body thing. Like, you are bigger than this. Like, there's something in all of us that is controlling the little bubbles around us. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I know that was like a weird little rant, but I just remember it changed me, man. It changed me. Because I just remember being like, yeah, I'm a little universe, and you're a little universe, and everybody's a little universe, and we're all little universes connecting a big universe. And that big universe is making sure that we're okay, so let's make sure we're okay. Like, it doesn't have to be so scary and alone. Like, I think Therefore I Am is like so fucking simple, and I kind of hate it to the idea that it's like so basic. Mm-hmm. When I like to go like, no, fuck that. I'm a universe. I'm going to live forever, and I'm going to make sure that the things I leave orbit and they look dope. You know?
Fuck yeah, dude. Fuck yeah.
Because like that's at the end of the
yes.
You know, because at the end of the day, it's like those are the things that they're going to outlast me. I'm just
that grasping of that understanding of infinity, a truth about eternity. I don't know what I kicked in like a year at some point. I don't know. It kicked in. I just had this weird couple of months where I was like, absolutely, I live forever.
Yes.
I couldn't explain it. I don't know why. I'll probably delve into it on some other thing. But I was just like, there's no question that there's a signal that my body is receiving. My body's a TV set, and I am the signal. And there's no question that because the universe doesn't waste things. It doesn't waste matter. It doesn't waste energy. It doesn't do it. It all goes someplace else and is just redistributed. Yep. The molecules remain. They're the same molecules now as they were at the beginning of the universe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's true about whatever makes my consciousness.
Whatever I am is the same shit.
Forever.
Forever.
And I'm going to make shit that looks dope around it.
Yes.
I love that.
And I just want to make sure that everybody goes, yeah, that thing right there that's going past, that one was Mitchell Davis's. You know?
Yeah.
That's, look, because, dude, like shit, man, we've got so little time. And that's the other thing that I can't stress enough. Look, I remember I was living in Ohio. I was walking in the middle of a field, and I just randomly was talking with my grandma on the phone, and I was like, why is everyone so obsessed with death? And she was like, what did you just say? And I was like, everyone's obsessed with fucking dying. It's like, cool, you're gonna die, and then
spoiler alert.
Yeah, you're dead. I was like, but where the fuck was I before I was born? And she just looked at me, and I was like, because I don't ever remember being scared or freaking out or anything. In fact, I don't even remember it taking a long time to get here. And I have a feeling that as soon as I die, that's exactly where I'm going to go again. And it seemed like it was a comfortable place. And
that's so good.
Because let's be real here, bro. History, the reason we learn it is because you were fucking dead. You were not here yet. You were here. You were just not in a body yet. Like, where the fuck were you? Where the fuck was I? Where were you, Jared?
Right.
I think about this all the time. And I was something before I was born. There was a whole world before I was born, and there's going to be a whole world after I'm born. The only thing that we get to do is hang out for like 60 to 100 years, hopefully good, and leave a few things that, you know, and especially in this day and age, you want to leave things in the physical realm because Lord knows the internet turns off, it all disappears.
Sure.
But, you know, R.I.P. Wikipedia project. But I just want to... Yeah, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. That doesn't bother me so much because of a couple of things. One, the only thing that remains on Earth, like past literally all of this, the only thing that remains past 10,000 years of our extinction, like if we're extinct, within 10,000 years, it will all of it be reclaimed by the Earth. The only thing that remains are stone structures, weirdly, like you know, the pyramids and shit like that. That would be, there'd be traces you could kind of tell, but there's like steel, plastic, all the fucking everything, like everything just gone. And I will say, even in a let's go on smaller timelines than that, leaving things behind that matter. I don't know, maybe it has to do with the connection to this feeling like in my moons of my universe, of my people floating around me, these other like are just such brilliant galaxies and things that like I feel that parts of me will remain here just in the ways that maybe I did something that impacted someone positively one day. Maybe I said something that gave them a new thought that they went and made the things that will really last. And I am so strangely comfortable with the possibility that my passing, my disappearance would be unnoticed.
It's not a physical...
But somebody else, but something...
It's like a pay it forward situation.
Yeah, I was part of it. I was part of it. And also not just that, but I often think, all time is on top of itself. So this idea of like, where was I before now? I was here. I was just never, this was where I was.
Yeah.
And there was no like, oh, I had a previous life. You might have like harmonics where like, I don't know, maybe our soul is like, is like a prism and it like fractures out into these embodiments across the tesseract of reality or something like that, this fourth dimension of time. Or something. But, you know, I don't even feel like I have to worry about it too much because, you know, it's like that distance paradox thing of like the smaller units that like technically, mathematically, you should, you know, if you keep dividing by 2 and dividing by 2 and dividing by 2, like if you say this, like, okay, to walk across, I've said this on another thing, but I'm going to bring it up again because it keeps blowing my mind, that like, if I want to walk a foot, if I want to walk 1 meter, then, well, first, mathematically, I would need to cross half of that meter. And then I would need to cross half of that meter. And then I would need to cross half of the meter. And then I would cross half. And technically, in the attempt to keep finishing crossing half of whatever remains, you will never reach the end.
Well, it's a fractal. I mean,
and yet we reach the end.
Yeah.
Like, and yet I just take 2 steps and I've crossed a meter. And I just love that thinking that like there's something mathematically wrong in the universe or mathematically wrong in our understanding of the universe that says something that should be utterly impossible, crossing the infinity of a single foot of space, is something we do all the time without thinking about it.
Yeah.
And there's something beautiful to me about that understanding that we do something literally impossible, completing infinity just in breathing and walking across a physical space.
I mean, just affecting each other. Just this podcast, someone could listen to this and forever refer to this.
That's correct. I think about this shit all the fucking time. There are stupid little like...
And just, it could be, and you know what's crazy? It could be in passing. They could be walking past a car, hear this, you know what I mean? And be like, that was interesting. Now I'm going to check it out. Or they never even check it out, but they think about it forever.
In the movie The Wedding Singer, you know the M. Sandler movie? There's a part where the wedding singer, the other band member, is like singing a Boy George song or something like that to cover for Adam Sandler, and it's like clear that like that's their one song, and they go, "Do you really want to hurt me?" You know, they sing that song, and then they finish the song, and the joke is that Adam Sandler's character still hasn't come back yet, and so they start singing it again. They go, "We'll just play it again." Do you really? And they sing until you realize they've been playing it over and over again because Adam Sandler's character's gonna come back, and somebody off screen goes, "You suck!" And the way that he said it, this voice might have been somebody in the ADR room, might have been an extra actually on set, probably a loop group, probably something like that. Whoever that person was, no fucking idea. This weird little soundbite of "you Sog, like stuck in my head forever. I think about it all the time, exactly how they think it. It makes me laugh still. There's something perfect in the weird delivery that is like that. Like there's infinite things like that every day that are like these little tiny fucking weird things that
it affects you forever.
Forever.
And that person has no idea, but they did.
How could they?
And but like I love to think though that like there's like little sprinkles of like their energy. It's like their universe, whatever.
Yes.
It's like you did a little dance.
It's brushed into mine. It's like fucking watercolored into mine.
Again, going back to the tide pool, it just kind of just sweeps in and out, kind of just flows.
I think that is so. I think we are all truly tide pool, little tide pods.
It's just like just like ebb and flowing into each other's lives, in and out. I feel like, dude, man, this goes back into why I love gradients so much. I love.
Where does the color end and start?
Yeah, where does something start and begin? Like I love fractals. I love the idea of like measuring things. The concept of like, hey, can you measure this? Well, actually, you can never get to the edge of something because it keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And it's like, well, it just looks like.
Dude, I was messing around with Twitch streaming, and using broadcast software that's screen capturing, and it screen captures with your video camera. And just
infinity.
Just that is like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like
if you think about it for half a second.
Yeah, you think about it just too long.
Yeah,
you're like, nope.
I mean, dude, that is the same thing as deja vu, and we all just go like, I don't know. Like, wait a minute. This casual thing I can just do without thinking about it. I can actually do it just by putting two mirrors on either side.
Yeah.
That's infinity.
Yeah.
That's literal infinity.
I mean,
like, it doesn't stop. It doesn't, like, if I could keep magnifying, it would never stop.
And what's even weirder is I like to imagine that there's the future me's in front.
Yeah.
And I'm just the old me that I'm seeing being caught up.
Well, that's literally true, actually.
I know.
I mean, okay, but the craziest thing.
Who saw
my God.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
See, because it's like.
This is like the notion of time. I just think it's interesting too. Like anything you see is in the past. Mm-hmm. Like the time it took for the light to bounce and come back to you, it's in the past. And not just that, this is the thing in the physics, I guess apparently I heard one time that like physicists and scientists like hate when fucking artists and armchair philosophers like take their physical principles of the universe and apply that to some spiritual concept because they're like, you're not getting the point. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah, we're not trying to prove that.
But one of them that I love is the idea that, you can't observe a thing without affecting it. And that comes from literally because they're trying to measure particles of like quarks and shit, and just by observing it, they're bouncing photons off. They're bouncing, and those photons affect the measurement, which is fucking insane to think about. But like that's us every fucking day. Every day, you're just you're bouncing somehow. I mean, that feels like a physical proof almost of our of our tides like interacting.
I mean, like even right now, this conversation is getting embedded in these walls. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, that's a whole nother. I mean, I agree with that. I believe haunting is more about that, is more about a repeated ritual over and over. And if some true horrors existed somewhere that like, or good things though too, there are places that are imbued with a kind of like love and a generosity of spirit that I really think that that's true. That like you can.
Well, I mean, look at vinyl. I mean, we etched music into a piece of plastic.
Wow, that's fucking good.
And I mean, like even right now, you have a wood table. Here, check this out. As I'm talking, I'm scratching your wood table and it's recording what I'm saying right now. You could play that now, that scratch. And I mean, even though that's
fucking weird, man.
Yeah, but like that's all it is grooves. And so like me talking, erosion is happening. Like
my fucking God, dude. I never put together till right now that a groove, like, yeah, that's a groove, is a literal groove.
Yeah, when
like,
someone says,
man, that's groovy. It's like a cut channel into something. It's like the same word. That's fucking really weird. I never put that together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you just go like, yeah, it's a groove. Oh, it's a groove. But it's literally an
actual groove.
A little mini canyon. A little like scratch. Oh my God. That's fucking crazy.
A record scratch.
So
dumb. Yeah, because you scratched it. Yeah. Dude,
wow.
But that's what's happening. Like, I mean, a great example, and this is another thing. Excuse me. This is another moment of like small life scenario where I realized like, oh, there's more going on than meets the eye. Is when you go to an abandoned house and you look at the windows and the windows are thicker at the bottom and at the top.
Oh, I love that.
And it's because glass is slowly moving.
Yeah.
It's actually a liquid.
Yeah.
And it's moving it's moving all the time. And I remember being like, that's fucking not true. And then someone was like, no, go to an abandoned house, look at the bottom. The bottom of the window will be so thick and the top will be so thin and brittle. And I did because I genuinely didn't believe it. And I just remember it changed the way that I saw time. I was like, oh,
yeah, everything
is actually not what it seems. And on a microscopic level, oh, fuck. And I was like a freshman in high school, and I remember like it was just, that was like a spirally little moment where I was just like, and now I'm an artsy boy. But it was just like, I mean, it only takes moments like that though, just like little moments, you know, just someone just, I mean, and they were saying it offhand. Right. They were just being like, you know, proving a theory about erosion. And I'm like, wait.
Yeah.
What'd you tell me about time and glass and what?
I think it's got. Yeah, these are probably old enough windows because I think newer windows don't do it as much. But like, definitely, I don't know. Blows my fucking mind.
I like to think that we're all doing that.
We are all. I mean, we definitely are all doing that. That's what cancer is. I mean, not to be morbid or whatever.
That's what aging is.
That's right. That like we're not supposed to age. Like our cells are supposed to perfectly recreate themselves. There is a thing inside them that self-destructs and starts. Cancer is.
As soon as you're born, you're dying,
dude. Cancer is just cells that mixed up a little bit. It's a computer bug, you know, and started recreating itself in the wrong direction. And it's like, it doesn't know. I don't know. There's some, that's fucking crazy.
It's literally early days Pac-Man where you couldn't control him completely. He had a little bit of self.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Little artificial.
Dude, that idea, like our body, our sense of this one singular thing is actually billions and billions and billions of things with their own sort of agenda that work in concert for a very limited period of time.
And you think it'd be crazy for all us humans to do that for the Earth?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, but we ask the same thing of our body every day.
Every day. You have billions of living organisms in your stomach that decide if you have enough serotonin produced to make you feel happy or not.
And you know what's really sad about all this? And this I'm about to go crazy. Is like, I just got finished watching Blue Planet 2, and you see like how underwater, like all these beautiful animals live in harmony together and actually have like learned to adapt, and species that shouldn't even hunt together have learned to hunt together or work together, or they now know that they should travel together because they work well. And there's no benefit other than, hey, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
This makes it so that underwater it's better.
Yeah.
And it
all right. This is one of the parts where I was talking about where I screwed up and it just stopped recording. So there's a little jump here that doesn't make any sense. And now we're going to return to the next part where we were talking. I don't know where it ended, and we referenced that. Okay.
Go right into the wrap up, boy.
All right. I don't know where we died on the last one, but we died at some point.
We've been dead this whole time. We know that now.
Now I'm eating chips, which is so obnoxious. They're coconut chips.
They're so good, though. You offered me a couple. I like how you said that we've died when this whole podcast. We've just pretty much solidified the idea that we've been dead forever.
I mean, I feel like it's really apropos, as they say. But I think it's nice. It'll help me really gently segue into my sort of wrap up section. First, I'm going to ask you a question that's not part of my traditional 6 quick cues wrap up.
6 quick cues.
6 quick cues. Which ends up being more than 6 quick cues and blah, blah, blah. But I think I might do it more like this in general anyway. Just have this as a structured question instead of letting it come up naturally. Because it's more interesting to me. I wanted to ask you if you have any diagnoses of like mental something or others, and also if you are prescribed or ever have been prescribed and taken medications.
Yes, I'm definitely. I have extreme OCD.
Really?
I had. Obsessive compulsive disorder, depression, and I suffered with light. It was not full fully, but it was on its way. Is kind of how the doctor said, agoraphobia.
Oh, interesting.
I wasn't leaving my house or my room, getting to the point where I was like my first therapy appointment was in the parking lot because I couldn't go into another building.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was a very. I've gone through a lot of weird things. My life, I've gone through a lot of like weird, medicines and all these things. And currently I actually just took a photograph because I was...
You did? It's like new stuff? Or you just forget the name?
I just always forget the name.
Yeah.
I am not one of those people that remembers anything.
That's fair.
And I think it's because one of these actually affects my memory. Or I used to take a medicine that affects my memory. But
it might be also... I don't know. I was thinking about that memory and things. And, with computers, we got this term, random access memory, that we could, to make sense of it. But I really do think that is how we are. And if you got a lot that you're thinking about all the time, like, I don't know, just like, what are you devoting your RAM to? What are you devoting your overclocked processor to?
Oh,
and
man.
mine is generally not like little weird bits of facts, definitely not schedule stuff,
I think about, this is just another random thing, but I think about all the time what I'm thinking about and is it worth my time?
That's really funny.
As weird as that is to say, because I just am constantly catching myself being like, how long have I thought about this?
Yeah.
How long has this been? Has it been an hour? 30 minutes?
Oh, well, time is really slippery.
Especially
when you get high.
And especially when you're inside your own head.
Yeah.
And
well, to me, like getting high is a really wonderful exercise. Like with marijuana is what I'm thinking of in particular.
Yes.
Of really understanding how malleable your sense of reality is, because it's this delicate little thing that's really not being invented. It's literally something that just grows out of the fucking ground, and if you burn it and inhale what it burns, it'll show you some different ways of looking at reality. And you just go like, oh, this is why sometimes like when time flies when you're having fun, or this is why an hour can feel like a whole fucking day, or whatever. And you start to go like, wow, my sense of time, time travel, like we were saying, like if you look at something, you're seeing something in the past. Like it took time for that light to travel back to your eyeballs, even if it's just infinitesimally small. That like time travel, I think memory is time travel. Like when you understand, oh, time all exists at once, it's like, I am here. I am also me when I was 5 years old in that wagon at the zoo at the same time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I also love the idea, the concept now that we have movies and video, because I like to think like once I'm able to project those kind of memories, these like, okay, so it's the same, because we're in this,
it really is a portal into the past,
because we are getting into this realm where it's like we have 3 cameras in the mid, like corner, and then you put on a VR headset and you're in a room with another person, and I'm just like, okay, well, what if that's been going on for 200 years and that person, when you put your headset on, is actually like your dead whoever?
You mean like the Rick and Morty thing where he plays the game and he's like, do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh my gosh, yes. And he's like, my whole life. And he's like, you were in there for like 20 fucking minutes.
Yeah.
It's a really crazy simulator.
I love that, dude.
Yeah, but
he's like, I survived cancer, went back to the carpet store. Wow. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, he was like, everybody has been laughing at you. But also, just a little heads up, because I pulled it up, is I take fluvoxamine and clozapine.
What are those for? Clozapine, that sounds like something for anxiety?
Yes,
yeah?
And the fluvoxamine is for the obsessive compulsive, and honestly,
it's called fluvoxamine.
Yeah, fluvoxamine.
I take something called mirtazapine.
I think, yeah. See, here's the thing about medicines, and I just want to go ahead and say this is, look, they're all so different, and there's so many. And even just since I've been living in LA, and I've been on taking medicines my whole life, just since I've been in Los Angeles, my medicine regimen has completely changed.
Do you experience big? Are you on a good one now? Do you like?
Yeah,
your current?
I'm really enjoying and feeling good with this now. But like, it's just, medicine is constantly evolving and changing, and also like the concept, like I'm in a state now where marijuana is legal, and that, like, I like smoking just so that I feel I honestly just feel level normal.
Yeah.
Like I think it's really funny when people they are like, oh, you smoke weed, you get fucking high, and I'm like, actually, I'm not stoned.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable. I actually feel like comfortable, and that's what I'm craving, is that feeling of like, Yeah.
Well, that's also you really have to understand people's bodies are impacted so differently
Yeah.
by different things. Going back to, I will always use it ever since I had my dumb peanut epiphany that peanuts kill some people and other people just love peanut butter sandwiches. Is like, truly, I mean, that's me with my ADHD medication. It's an amphetamine. It says on the fucking bottle of the, you know, the, what do you call it? Generic.
Yeah.
You know, it says, whatever kind of methamphetamine or something. That's not methamphetamine, but it's another kind of amphetamine. You're like, it's speed. It's cocaine.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm transparent about my experiences here. I remember trying cocaine for the first time and being like, this is great. I feel normal. I feel normal. I feel like the universe is going as fast as my brain goes. Not necessarily like, oh, I'm so much faster. Like they're just clicking into the same speed. I'm normal. And you realize, which also was why I was like, I did it a handful of times and I was like, I got to be fucking careful with this little demon because I will die for this thing, you know? To feel normal, which is such a hilarious idea in itself.
I know, just the concept.
I have found the normalcy is just about walking through the world. I haven't lost, as I'm on a very low dose of this speedy thing to help my brain feel normal now, that like other people take it as a recreational drug, or like, I just got a lot of tests to get through, studying to do, let me get some Adderall. You know, it's like, dude, it works for that for some people. For me, all it does is allow me a little bit more access to my thoughts and connecting my thoughts to actions. That's how I really feel it. Like, you know, and just understanding that. So what you're saying, like with the weed and stuff, obviously also different cannabis strains do different things and have different measurements of different chemicals. I take CBD rubs like that, just for muscle problems.
I mean,
like it truly is like a magical thing.
CBD for my insomnia has changed my life.
Like some people would smoke weed and I'd be like, getting fucking high, bro, and just think, you know, but understanding that it impacts people's bodies so differently. It helps people's seizures, helps people with cancer. Like, it's totally reasonable that there'd be this thing that is like, helps you just, to me, it's like, it's not about, oh, it's bad to be weird, it's bad to be crazy. I just think it helps while we are tethered to this earthly notion of humanity and our galaxies banging around into each other's galaxies, like, it is nice to have something that helps you join everybody else, like that we can operate together in a more harmonious way, so every day doesn't just feel like I'm dying a little bit, like so overwhelmed. You know?
And it's also not poison, and I don't get hungover.
Right. Well, that too, man. I mean, that's a whole. I mean, I'm sure we get in that debate someday. But I think that is good to say. I mean, my thing about bringing up the medication is I just think it's important because I realized I held a prejudice about it. I held a stigma.
Oh, I wouldn't take it for a long time because I thought it was going to fuck up my creativity.
And I actually think that's not a bad thing. Like, I think it's good to get real with yourself, get some physical practices, look at your diet, look at your mental practices, meditation, all that kind of stuff before, like, don't just jump to a thing. I mean, I spent my whole life, man. I didn't try psychiatric medication until I was 32, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that anybody has to wait that long. I wish I hadn't waited as long, but I'm really glad because the cultivation of tools that didn't quite get me where I feel I wanted to be, now I can actually use them. Yeah. You know? Mm-hmm. Like, I know a lot of people I've talked to too who say they'll get on a psychiatric medication and it just kind of gets them to a place where it's like triage. It gets you to a place where you're stabilized, and then you can employ the strategies and tools that you've learned in therapy, that you've learned in your readings and inner self-exploration. Now you can actually put them into practice, and there might become a point where you can remove the training wheels sort of the medication. You know, it's not something that necessarily has to be like, it's definitely not a magic pill, but I am interested in becoming more transparent, having creative and thriving beings express like, you know what, this thing that is still kind of a dirty secret for a lot of society. Yeah, I do that. It's fine.
Okay. And you just reminded me of something that was so, I just remember it changed. It changed for me. Oh, and I just lost the thought. Oh no.
I hate that.
It slipped right out of my head.
Look what I've done.
No. Wait. What did he say? It was something along the lines of
triage, stabilizing, inner practices before getting the pill.
Oh shit! It's right there. No, I'm gonna remember this because it's so good. I remember being like,
Remember into the microphone.
what did he say? What the fuck did he say? Oh, it was something my doctor said, and I just remember it was so good. Oh, okay, yes. Because the thing about medicine, when I first started taking it, is one of the first conversations I had with my doctor and my therapist is I was like, he just was constantly going, you realize you're still going to be afraid. And I just was like, what do you mean? And he's like, I'm not going to give you enough so that you are not, like you are a fearless superhuman. Okay, people feel fear. You're supposed to be afraid of things. There's supposed to be this feeling of like, oh, I got to put a fire under my ass and get to work. And he's like, and that's where we want to get you.
Yeah.
Like, so I remember that was a fun realization too of being like, oh, there is like a comfortable level of stress that the world you are supposed to live with. You're not supposed to, again, I guess I'm playing off the idea of just don't jump into medicine. Learn about yourself.
Agree.
Like, figure out like what things you can do, because I taught myself so much about breathing and about like teaching myself how to calm myself down naturally and closing my eyes and like trying to recreate the room around me.
And don't think that once you take the medicine that you're gonna just not have to do any of that anymore.
Exactly. Like there's still work to be done.
That is when the work begins.
Yes. The medicine is just like a starting point, is just, it honestly is the beginning of the ritual of you going, hey, I'm bettering myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think there's something about that in like lifting weights and stuff, like learning a pull-up. You learn a pull-up. You can't fucking do a pull-up when you can't do a pull-up.
True.
How do you end up getting able to do that? Well, maybe you get a little step box and you have to stand on the box and you let your legs help you a little bit. Maybe you get like a rubber band, like one of those big rubber band things, put that around your leg. That gives you a little bit of help. Maybe you work on negatives and you start just hanging and slowly. And then one day, you don't need any of that anymore.
Yeah.
One day you've worked on it enough where you're like, whoa, I can just do a pull-up. It doesn't happen overnight. That's not how that works. It's incremental little process. So to me, things like that are like, you know, hey, it's putting a little step stool there. It's getting a little rubber band to help you build certain strengths and practices that you don't have yet and that nobody could do. You couldn't just jump to.
Yeah.
You need this incremental progress.
And what's so strange too is it's for a muscle, it's for your brain that like no one else can see, no one else can truly understand what's going on in everyone else's head, and
yes.
I find that so frustrating.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to what the hell is going on?
Ooh, do.
Ooh, girl. I love you so. Never, ever gonna let you go.
You keep that in.
Huh? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We're going to do 6 quick cues.
6 quick cues.
And I fucked up and didn't send you these ahead of time. They're simple questions, but
That's
sometimes
fine.
it can take you a second to like think of something. But
I prefer the spontaneity.
Yeah, this is going to be truly on the spot. Okay.
Yes.
So, and this is really actually dovetailing quite nicely with what we just said. Consistent practices. Do you have any consistent practices, physical, mental, spiritual? Especially physical I'm interested in, because in a question, the conversations tend to be very heady and stuff. And do you have any bodily things that you do that help you manage that?
I do a lot of like just stretching. I love to just stand around in the middle of my living room and just stretch, reach as high as I can, touch the floor. I like to remind my body that it can move around. And I know that that's a little strange, but I don't ever want to feel too stiff. I always want to remind myself that I can move. So I stretch a lot. I like to do a lot of...
I just want to say what you just said is, to me, like, it's taken me, I'll give it 15, maybe 20 earnest years of like physical awareness and practice, and, you know, starting gyms and martial arts and different things to come to what you're saying.
Really?
Yeah. To realize like goals and what I'm trying to do and this and that and my blah is honestly. And then my friend Jason, who was on this podcast, and I don't know what order, I don't know if Jason Scarmalias has gone up yet, but said define fitness. He goes, I was like, what do you think, you know, what do you define fitness? And he goes, I think it's just feeling good in your body.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, it took so fucking long just to get to that stupid idea. And that is literally how I approach after years. I was a CrossFit coach for a while. I've done stints of powerlifting and this and that. I still do jiu-jitsu a lot. But when I go to the gym, I'm really, honestly, I just move around.
Well, no, and I've told you, I love watching your Instagram videos because I've actually taken a few of the moves that you do.
Oh, cool.
Just because I'm like, that seems like it would be such a good feeling on the back, or a stretch, or a good stretch. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't have a cowbell or anything. I'm not like,
sure.
But I'm definitely just doing it still there. Just like kind of, I just want to keep reminding my body that it's here and it's moving and it's fluid. And like,
yeah,
I'm
dude.
not like, I just don't want to become like frigid and like I'm so afraid of like Tin Manning up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I'm just constantly like trying to fill my lungs as much as they can. And
oh wow, that's a really good practice.
Yeah, like I'm always trying to burst the barrels. What I say is like I took music singing lessons for a while when I was a kid, and she taught me how to like holding in your air and then taking in just a little bit extra and spreading your. And then
your intercostal muscles, all your rib cage,
you know, and hold in a little bit of extra air and let it all out. Like really let that 20% of that air that sits at the bottom of your lungs, like clear that out in the morning and start fully fresh. I just try to like cleanse myself a lot. Like I have no problem being like, oh yeah, I'm juicing for 2 days. I love the idea of being like, I feel empty in the best way because I feel new and fresh. I love that feeling.
Anybody listening, if you can adopt what Mitchell's just described, that's very, I believe that to be very high-end physical practice.
I mean, the clarity that comes from it after like day 2, I'm like, the things I'm thinking and the way that I feel is crazy.
Well, just this thing that sounds so simple, but like having a truly personal physical practice, which I think it's good to get out there and explore and learn and read. And, you know, if you're into physical culture, like learn all that stuff, learn about weightlifting, learn about ideas about different kinds of lifting, blah, this and that, movement, yoga, Pilates, whatever. But if you can, the true high end, and that stuff just sometimes teaches you tools. Like you don't even know your body can move certain ways. So you're like, oh, I never thought about that. But like, the ability to just get in your own bones and body and feel like, where am I tight? What needs to move? What needs to inflate? What's that? And especially all of it being rooted in your breath, of being like big breaths, big oxygen, big intakes of air, like the way you inflate your abdomen in different ways. That is truly, I believe, that's the most profound physical practices you can have.
Wow.
Because, and the movement thing you said with the Tin Manning thing, I think about this all the time. When we're babies, you just squat, you don't think about it. You just like plop down and look at something, and your body folds up in this perfect like biomechanical way, and then it just goes away.
Well, okay. See, what you're saying plays off of, in the past few years, I've realized not everything, when I was younger, everything was comfortable. Like I could sleep in the back of a car, like in the middle seat, on the fucking cup holder, and I would be fine. And it's like now, if there's like a coil wrong in my bed, I'm like, fuck, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, that's getting older.
And one day I was just like, well, that's weird. That's weird that like young me didn't have to worry about anything like that. So, and I genuinely think it's because young me was just like you're saying, plopping down. I just would if I wanted to do something, I'd just stand up and run.
Yeah. Part of that's truly that race car brain again. It's just wear and tear, man.
Yeah.
Your body's a physical object. It's like, it's some wear and tear.
Yeah.
I worry about my guts sometimes, you know?
No,
IBS, my butthole. I feel like, damn, I'm blowing that gasket, dude.
Dude, I think about
too much stress in my stomach. I'm like, that stuff's gonna wear out by the time I'm 50. I hope they have butthole replacements in the future.
Dude, sometimes when I'm doing like breathing exercises and stuff, I'm literally like, I'm gonna burst. I'm just gonna burst today. I think I'm just gonna burst. These lungs are just gonna. I mean, I will say one of the craziest things is,
man. That means you're pushing it.
Man,
not gonna happen. Don't worry about it. But that's a good.
My sternum
place
popped
to learn.
once, and
that's cool though.
And it was the best feeling. I was
you're doing self internal chiropractic.
It was crazy. My sternum popped, and my back stopped hurting the whole day, and I did like a bunch of push-ups that day just because of it. It was great.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, man. Stretching,
Good.
stretching
and breathing. All right, what's something cheesy that actually inspires you?
Oh man, documentaries.
Like what? Do you have one in mind?
Something cheesy that actually inspires me is documentaries. Lately, it's the Jim and Andy one. The concept of like being true to yourself. What's
the Man on the Moon thing?
Yeah, I want to go like even cheesier.
Sure.
What's something like
cheesier,
actually cheesy that inspires me?
Yeah.
That I'm just like, yeah, I want to do that.
It could be like literally like a phrase or something, or like whatever. It doesn't matter.
God, this is a good
Practice.
one. This is
I
a good
know,
one.
because I think about it all the time. I'm like, there's dumb like, very bro-y, like Navy SEAL positive thinking stuff, sometimes that I'm like, yeah, I like that. That's good for me. That's useful for me.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I think it's Kanye West.
Dude, I love that. I completely agree with you 100% right away.
I think that's my number one cheesy. I will never not believe in him, and I hope that he gets to do all those crazy ideas that he has in his head.
Dude, I fucking agree with you. I'm going to share something
Please.
that Kanye said to me and also 50,000 other people when I saw him at Outside Lands one time.
Okay, because I was about to be like, wait, what?
Yeah. No, I did love this, dude. It was like Kanye, legendarily does like rants and stuff at his concerts and stuff. And I saw him at Outside Lands, and it was the only time I've ever seen him in concert. And it was amazing. He's amazing. But like,
I've seen him twice, and it was crazy.
Dude, he goes, because he was in the throes of one of his like tweet storms and shit, and he was like really having like a crazy phase, an outwardly crazy egomaniac phase, whatever. I think I'm not. Oh, I don't want to go down this wormhole. I love Kanye West, and this is a whole there's a whole Kanye day to me about like we can talk about like who he represents as like this battle of
that'll be when I come back. We'll have a whole Kanye episode.
He's an external expression of this personal battle. I think most of us feel the id and the superego and like the struggle and of just being a person, and then you can see it in all of his albums, the way it goes from this like humble sort of beginnings that has like this very soulful samples of things that came before him that he sees that are beautiful and he wants to change, and being sort of insecure and unsure but unique, and then what would any honest, in touch soul go through if all of a sudden these things that don't matter to you, they didn't change, you're the same person, but all of a sudden they're throwing money and sex at you and power and all this stuff, and how corrupting that is and how confusing that is. I think he expresses all of what he's going through so honestly and so crazily, and people just get grossed out because they're like, that ego. But it's like, are you kidding me? You're making that. We're making that, and he's actually being a human experiencing it and having the ability to verbalize it back. Anyway,
dude, Pinocchio story on 808s.
Yeah,
that is a great, like, just listen to what he's saying. We built Kanye West.
Of course. Well, the whole society wants us all to be Kanye West, and then as soon as you are the thing that they've all wanted the whole time, we hate them.
You call yourself Yeezus, and everybody gets mad at you. But we've been calling him Yeezus for years.
Yeah, and then he literally, I mean, it's fucking beautiful. I mean, it's perfect. I think he's a great artist. But like, he said this thing in the concert. Two things that I always resonated. I thought was so fucking dope. Was like, one, this huge crowd, right? Like 50,000, whatever, so many fucking people at Outside Lands, this huge concert in San Francisco, in the middle of San Francisco. And he goes, you'd think from what you read online, people don't like me. And then everyone just goes like, and you're like, well, okay, there's one like fucking little gem they carry around forever. All the voices in your head, all the fucking tweets and timelines and all this shit. And I mean, I know there's a dangerous thought here. I know every one of us checks Donald Trump's tweets and then sees like two replies down. We love you, MAGA, So yeah, this is a dangerous thought. People aren't always right about that. But that thing, you think people don't like me. 50,000 people scream back, I fucking love you. That's amazing. The better one, the best one, I think reflects this thing that we said. We just instantly like love Kanye and what he's doing, his thing. Not saying he's like a perfect good person or that nothing he does is a fucking problematic or whatever. I just think he's a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. He goes, if you a fan of Kanye, it really just means you a fan of yourself.
It's awesome. I mean, that's
it's fucking awesome, because the implicit is, hey, if you really hate Kanye West, if he grosses you out, his ego is a problem for you, time to look in the mirror.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, I remember the thing happened when he was doing his thing at award shows where he'd get up and go, intercept the mic and say stuff. And I remember thinking, like, it was on one of them, I was so surprised at the people in my life who you would, if you ask them, how do you feel about speaking truth to power? If someone sees an injustice, let's just make it that kindergarten questions. If you see an injustice and everybody in the room doesn't see it, and what should you do? Should you stand up and say something? Should you just go up and do it? Yes. Even though it's really embarrassing, of course, speak truth to power. That's what I'm told. If you see something, you got to fucking do something about it.
I'll let her finish, but Beyonce had the best album.
Yeah, and more than that, like the later ones, I think, the Beck stuff, whatever. All of a sudden, people that you would think are on the side of like, yes, of course, give voice to those things. Those people are all going like, sit down.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck, sit down. And when he, there's a hour-long interview where he talked about one of them, saying like, his feelings about it and being like, hey, this is a commercial business. This is a commercial thing they're putting on. And they get us to come for free because we look like assholes. They give us these awards, these prestigious things that are considered respect and whatever. So we sit in the front row so they can show videos of us and sell ads because they know we're going to be there and blah, blah, blah. And then when it's time to give us an award because we're black maybe and because like we're popular and because we're not in their weird little club, but Beck, this like 30-year-old like aging musician who made good music in the 90s, they give him the award. He's like, that is weird. That's a symbol. That's a thing they're saying. That's exploitation. They're making money off us and using us for that. And then they say, but we're not actually respectable. We're not the real thing. And you're like, well, fuck, man. When you're looking at it in those terms and really understanding that, yeah, that starts to make some real fucking sense. And we're all going to be like, he's just an egomaniac?
Yeah.
Who should shut the fuck up and sit down? Man, I thought that was so interesting. So that thing, like, you hate Kanye, maybe you hate yourself, If you're a fan of Kanye, you're a fan of yourself. To me, I'm like, dude, if there's something in this struggle and this imperfection and this exploding heart, like, all the time that doesn't know what to do with itself, that's just us. That's everyone.
Yeah.
If you get honest,
yeah. I can't agree more. You really like hit it. That's it, man.
All right. Sorry, we went off on that one. Okay, here's my next 6 quick cues, dude. Just quick cues. 6 quick cues. What's something dark about you? This is my goth question.
Something dark about me.
Ooh, that was good.
Maybe this voice.
I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna use that's gonna become my little
I think it's
soundboard
this voice.
Something dark about me is I really love silence. I love silence, even though I'm a huge lover of music.
Audiophile person, yeah.
But I have no problem sitting in full fucking silence by myself in my home and just like listening to like the hum of lights and electricity. Like, and I guess it seems dark only because if someone were to be like, yeah, I just watched footage of you sitting doing nothing for an hour and it looked like it was from Insidious.
Man, that is cool. Yeah, I like that answer because definitely the impulse is to say something like kind of, but that's a very like lugubrious, truly fucking goth answer.
But
you just like silence.
I just like to, like, there's even been times where I've heard my name being called and I will just not say it just to be like, I wonder if they'll say it again. Or I'll say, yeah, but I'll say it like as quiet as I can just to see if they hear it.
Wow.
And I feel like it's maybe not dark, but it's definitely shitty. I do that though, but I love silence though. Something about silence is, dare I say, golden.
I've never heard that.
I paint my nails a lot. I like to.
Oh, but that's not goth. That is goth. That is goth. That is not very dark. It's just like
it's just goth. I mean, we're just
dope.
It's fucking awesome.
Man, I've started doing that as like a bit. I'm goth. I'm actually goth.
Oh, I know. I love it. I love the fact.
And then I think it's really fucked up that people think a goth is like supposed to look a certain way. It's like, excuse me. Excuse me. Do I not? Oh, I'm not. I don't look like a goth supposed to look. Wow.
You're the most goth guy I know.
I'm fucking super goth. Let's be real.
6 quick cues.
6 quick cues. What's something you thought was cool when you were younger? Clearly not cool now at all.
Big Wolf on Campus television show.
What is that? That sounds amazing.
It was about.
Is it like Teen Wolf?
It was about a guy who was bit by a werewolf who was in high school, who had a friend named Merton J. Dingle, who was like a goth nerd, who had a lair, who was like, you're a werewolf, and I'm going to help you and be your best friend so that you can manage being a werewolf
this
without
is a TV
anyone
show?
Yes, it was like an ABC Family television show.
God.
forever ago, and it was garbage. It was total garbage, but I loved it, and
How old are you and you love it? How old are you?
I was 11.
That's a good time. That's the perfect time.
And I think it definitely heavily influenced a lot of my art those days. And I got confiscated from teachers multiple images of human werewolves that were deemed too inappropriate to have in school.
Were they anatomically correct werewolves?
No, they were just like bloody mouth, sharp teeth.
Yeah.
And and this teacher she was just like not about it. And she like hated the fact that even Christmas was a thing, but it was really, or no, excuse me, not Christmas, Halloween.
I was gonna say that's deep.
Yeah,
it's a pagan holiday. It's not a real Christian holiday. That's like deep.
Yeah, no, she
witchcraft.
hated it. She hated it.
Yuletide. All right, that's good. What's the last gorgeous thing you saw?
The last gorgeous thing I saw, dude. The last gorgeous thing I saw, this guy. It was
a flower?
Yeah, it was this flower on the way. It's right outside your apartment.
Oh, wow, that is really beautiful, actually.
Yeah, it kind of looks fake.
Yeah, fave that. So when I put this up, I can have it. I don't know what kind of flower it is. It's purpley. It looks like a daisy.
It's beautiful.
Mixed with kind of a lotus.
But
pink and white gradient.
I think it's just everything blooming right now in LA.
Springtime.
I am just I love plants. I love moss, and I love I just love all the foliage and everything growing, and like with all the rain we've gotten, the hills have been green a little bit, I have just been eating it up.
Yeah.
I love it.
LA can be very beautiful.
It can, and it can also be like so dry and scary and dark and like
with and polluted, so that it feels really like laser beamy. The sun just feels bad. And
yeah. Like when you look up, you're like, "Am I on another planet?"
Yeah.
But like right now, in this like right before spring starts, I love it. I love it. I love it. Like all the poppies are out. It's great. Just great.
Do you think farts are funny?
Yes, for sure. Farts are hilarious, and I can't burp. I can only fart. So that's a little fact about me.
You can't burp?
I one of my big fears is throwing up. I just cannot handle it.
You force yourself not to burp because you're worried you're gonna.
I don't know. It's like my body from a young age was just like, yeah, we don't burp, dude, because it seems too much like throwing up. So I'm just a big fart machine.
I love that. We're gonna we have two more. That's the end of the 6 quick heals.
6 quick heals.
But there are two more little things I like to do, and we're gonna move a little quickly because speaking of farts and stuff, I have to go to the bathroom. But I don't want to stop, so we're gonna just finish it up.
Let's do it.
Okay. Do you have any self-care? This is the self-care segment. Do you have a self-care practice you're using recently, something you really like or generally like that you recommend to people?
Drink more water. When you wake up, drink as much water as you can.
I did it because I was cutting weight for a tournament. I was like trying to get on weight for a jiu-jitsu tournament, and so I started a good thing to do that is drink a gallon of water a day because it helps you with your weight cut later.
Man, it is,
dude. It changes everything.
I didn't realize how much it woke me up. Like drinking a huge glass of water, you're not falling back asleep. You're up.
Yeah, you gotta go. You gotta get. You're gonna have to go to the bathroom.
Also, take a shower. Get clean in the morning. Like at the beginning of the day. Get clean, even if you don't have anything to do, because it makes you feel good, and then it makes you feel like, you know what, maybe there is something I can find to do.
Yeah, this is weird. That just made me think of my jiu-jitsu teacher because it's another jiu-jitsu reference too. But he was saying he's like serious germaphobe. But like he was saying, not yes, you should do it for hygiene when you get done with practice. Take a shower as soon as you can after doing jiu-jitsu. But also he's like, you should feel like a samurai washing your armor. Like you should feel like with your body and the way that there's this ritual of like taking care of your armor and your tools as you go into the world. And I felt like that connected to what you said.
That's super cool. That's like sharpening your blade after use.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and just thinking of your body as that, this is the thing that you have that protects you and does the work for you.
I feel like we've just been bouncing all around this idea that we are just vessels, my man. You gotta take care of it.
That is definitely like probably the biggest fucking theme that people get really sick of me talking about on the show with my good bad brain is like your brain is the vessel too. Like the whole thing is just this thing that's holding something, you know? Okay, my very last thing is I have something I call the "Don't Kill Yourself" list, which I started for myself when I was in a very bad part of my life, when my brain was telling me to kill myself a little bit too intensely, more than I thought it should. So one thing I came up with as a coping mechanism was the "Don't Kill Yourself" list, and it was just things that are usually pretty accessible, pretty common, things that are just wonderful reasons to be alive. I started the list, and it still starts if I ever do the practice with the same first 3 things, which are coffee sandwiches and lavender soap.
That's awesome.
And I would like you to add something to the "Don't Kill Yourself" list.
Music.
Just music. That's great.
Music in general, just sound, man. Just sonic sound.
Yeah.
Involve it. Let some vibrations pass through the room and feel in your body.
Have you ever done a sound bath? Have you ever done those crystal bowl sound bath things?
I have a crystal bowl at home, and I
really?
Yeah, and I do a lot of Tibetan singing bowl music. I love it. I mean, if you find one where it hits you and like the tone is right and you vibrate with it, and you start to do the tone too. I mean, I've gotten lost for like 20 minutes in it. I mean, and
I've
you
done
just
like
feel
I
so
should have
good.
known. I should have known. Of course, you'd have like the singing bowls already down. You've
Oh
got
yeah,
that.
for sure. Yeah, like I have 3, and one of them is a giant crystal one.
Dope. All right. Well, that's good. I have to go to the bathroom. We've fucking gone into the stars, into the moon.
Seriously.
While never leaving. We're just here.
And we met Kanye out there.
It was really wonderful. It was quite an adventure.
Thank you so much for having
dude.
me.
This fucking ruled. I didn't even get into. I was gonna ask you about like Wavy Dash and shit and whatever, but I don't.
I'll be on
I'm just
here
excited
again.
about. Yeah, you fucking will for sure. I'm excited about all your creations. You're bringing Live Lava Live back a little bit too, right?
I am.
I saw. That's cool.
Yeah,
I liked it. I saw the like first video of you being like, this is gonna be a thing coming back. And I was like, hell yeah, all right.
Once I get this move all settled, it's like it's happening.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell anybody where to find things about you and your life and things?
Yeah, here. You go to the bathroom.
Just do it. Okay, well, and then because I feel uncomfortable because the battery is. I have bad batteries and they're gonna die. Okay? There's not enough. Life is lack. Life is lack. It's entropy. It's constant.
If you want to check me out, Google Mitchell Davis. Go to popcorn.show. Check out my podcast, and honestly, just go listen to some good music. Go listen to Frank Ocean, Endless. It was so good.
That's a very specific recommendation. Go do it right now. All right, thank you for listening to my good bad friend. I love you.
I'm
Goodbye.
gonna go use the bathroom, so you can't. Bye.
Do it. Yeah. So that's it. If you survived the beginning of this episode, you've had enough of me. So let's just say that's the end of this up. Thank you so much for